Magical Pokémon Urban System. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, Battle of Conquest. Although Liu felt that it was a very cruel thing to take away Zoroark's tribe partners and possibly even his relatives, but isn't the meaning of the existence of Pokémon to live, adventure, train, and fight with the trainer. In this way, a bond is formed and a new realm is reached. And if these Pokémon just stay in a corner and don't make progress, they will never reach the legendary realm. Shuo. Okay, but if you want to take one of them away, you must defeat him personally and show me and us your strength. And you can't force anyone unless he accepts your request to fight. Zoroark may have experienced many such scenes. After all, over the years, there must be people in the Oak family who want to get Zoroark as his adventure partner. So he did not reject Liu's request unsatisfactorily, but chose to speak with strength. If he defeated his tribe and the other party was willing to leave with Liu, then Liu could take him away. Well, I'll show you my strength. Zoroark, who of you is willing to fight with me and go on an adventure with me? Liu looked at Zoroark firmly, then looked at the Zoroarks and asked with a little expectation. When the Zoroarks heard Liu's words, they immediately became noisy. Some were very curious about the outside world and were eager to try. Some were a little yearning, but still a little afraid, and some simply ignored Liu, as if they hadn't seen anything. After all, not all Pokémon are the same, just like humans are different, not to mention these magical creations of heaven and earth, Pokémon. Shoo. Quiet, I won't stop you if you are willing to go on an adventure with the trainer. It is also a very happy thing to be able to go on an adventure with the trainer. But before you choose, I want to remind you that once you make a decision, don't regret your choice today in the future. Zoroark seemed to think of some previous experiences and showed a nostalgic expression, but then became serious and said to the little Zoroarks, As soon as Zoroark finished speaking, two little Zoroarks ran out excitedly, looking at Liu with an eager look on their faces. Moreover, these two Zoroarks seemed to be brothers, and they had a very good relationship. When they saw each other running out, they immediately started to play together. Those who didn't know would think they were playing. However, Liu could hear what they meant. That is, they were actually keen to see who would lose, and then the loser would give up the opportunity to fight with Liu. Speechless. Zoroark didn't seem to have any intention of stopping it, and just stood there watching the two little Zoroarks fight in a ball, with a smile on his face. After a while of playing around, the two Zoroarks finally decided the result, because it seemed that the older Zoroark took the initiative to give the opportunity to the younger Zoroark. As for how Liu knew who was older and who was younger, haha, Liu said, do I tell you that I was actually guessing blindly? As long as you can defeat me, I will be your elf and go on adventures with you. Little Zoroark looked very powerful, and it seemed that he had never thought about how strong Liu was. However, this is also the cute part of elves. Name, Zoroark attribute, evil qualification, epic level, black iron level 15 ability, innate skills, ever changing, born with the ability to change into other elves or human forms. Already enabled, shadow trick, a killer in the dark who can manipulate his own shadow. Enabled at level 25, evil wave, radiate malicious energy from the body, attack the opponent, and reduce the opponent's momentum. Enabled at level 40, learning skills, claws, use claws to attack the opponent. Retaliation, transfer all the damage you receive to the opponent, and there is a certain probability of double return. High speed movement, run fast, and the speed is greatly increased. Chase, on the basis of causing an attack to the opponent, launch a continuous attack again. In that case, I won't bully you. Charmander, come out. Through the system's identification ability, Liu saw that this Zoroark was only level 15. It would be effortless to defeat him, so Liu released Charmander without hesitation, without any thought. Roar. As soon as he appeared, Charmander ordered Zoroark on the opposite side, and the momentum directly frightened Zoroark and made him take a step back. After all, these Zoroark, under the protection of the leader, had no sense of crisis. Although they had combat training with their companions, they had never taken real action. Therefore, facing the actual combat for the first time, and fighting against an explosive and attacking spirit like Charmander, Zoroark was a little timid for a while. Shaking his head slightly, Liu was a little disappointed with Zoroark's performance. But thinking of the environment they lived in, Liu was relieved. After all, the breeding garden of the Oak family was mainly for breeding spirits, so the training of spirits was a little scarce. Having lived a carefree life since childhood, they do not have the sense of crisis that those elves living in the wild have. However, even so, Liu did not give up. After all, it is difficult to meet an elf like Zoroark in the wild again. And even if there is no combat experience, it can still be cultivated. As long as more training is given in the future, Liu believes that with Zoroark's talent, he can definitely master the rhythm of the battle quickly and not be afraid of any opponent. High speed movement, sharp claws. At the beginning of the battle, Zoroark directly launched the first attack. Under high speed movement, the sharp claws attacked the little dragon with evil power. Roar. Without Liu's command, the little dragon did not know how many such scenes he had experienced. He dodged directly and used the alloy claws to fight back. Bang. One is a little dragon who has fought dozens of battles, and the other is Zoroark who has no actual combat experience. The result is obvious. Zoroark was hit directly. There was some anger in the painful cry. Black light surged on Zoroark's body, and then suddenly, the little dragon also roared in pain. What? Revenge? Thinking of the information about Zoroark that he had just seen, Liu instantly thought of this skill, revenge. Transfer all the damage received by oneself to the opponent, and there is a certain probability of double return. The skill of revenge can be called a bug, because once the double return effect is triggered, it can completely reverse the outcome of a battle. Although this setting with a certain probability seems a bit illusory, it is actually determined by the strength of both parties and the degree of Zoroark's anger. Because the power brought by a person or an elf through an emotional outburst is very powerful, it cannot be inferred by common sense at all. And Charmander was very unfortunate to trigger it. The so-called double return effect, therefore, was attacked more severely than Zoroark, which can be said to be a thankless task. Roar. With a roar, Charmander was ready to rush forward. Charmander, calm down. Control your emotions. Seeing that Charmander fell into a state of irritability and anger, just because of a temporary defeat, Liu was very worried about him. Newcomer and new book, the author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please review, please do anything. Chapter 102, Victory Sad Farewell. If Charmander can't control his emotions, he won't be able to calmly experience his own power, let alone the state of evolution. Hearing Liu's words, the anger in Charmander's eyes gradually extinguished, and he quickly controlled himself to return to a calm state. Very good. Next, Charmander, use sparks. Liu ordered. Roar. The scorching flames gathered in Charmander's hands, and then one spark after another attacked Zoroark. There was no time to stop Charmander's skills, and Zoroark could only run non-stop, dodging the attack of sparks, while rushing towards the location of Charmander. High-speed movement. Covered by sparks, Zoroark was about to be attacked, but suddenly his speed was like a rocket, and his figure rushed forward quickly, and those sparks could only attack the open space behind him. Thousands of changes. Alloy Claw. After coming to Charmander, Zoroark's appearance suddenly changed drastically, and he was exactly the same as Charmander, and then he even used Charmander's skills. Alloy Claw. Bang. Charmander, stunned by the sudden change, had no time to react and took all the damage from the alloy claws. Thousands of changes. Chase. Zoroark restored to his original form, and launched his attack again. Chase. On the basis of the attack hit, the same damage is caused again. Bang. Zoroark's claws with black light directly hit Charmander's chest again, and this attack was more powerful than the first one. Because the alloy claws just now were used when transformed into Charmander, they could only exert 70% of their strength, while this time the chase skill was a full 100% burst of strength. Charmander. I didn't expect that, Zoroark. who was not good at fighting, would burst out with such a powerful fighting ability. Liu was very surprised, and at the same time, he was a little worried about Charmander's state. After all, he was attacked one after another, and was attacked by his own skills. Liu was afraid that Charmander, who had just regained his composure, would become furious again, because he could not control his emotions again, which would be bad. Raw. But Charmander did not disappoint Liu. Although he was attacked continuously, he still insisted on standing up and roared at Liu, indicating that he could continue to fight. Very good Charmander. Burst your anger. Release your anger into your attack, Dragon's Wrath. Although Charmander did not show any anger, Liu could see that the flame in his heart was burning fiercely. Therefore, he could not continue to suppress Charmander, and must let him release his anger. Roar. Buzz. A low roar came, and then a suppress momentum suddenly appeared, covering the entire battlefield. Then a dragon-shaped phantom appeared behind Charmander. Roar. With a dragon roar, the dragon-shaped phantom flew directly towards Zorok with powerful power. Boom. Perhaps because of the invisible momentum, Zorok stood there stupidly, and forgot to dodge. Then there was a boom, and Zorok was directly hit by the dragon-shaped phantom, dragging a long way on the ground before stopping. Ah! With a painful scream, Zorok fainted due to exhaustion. So, after the battle, Zorok did not blame anyone, even though Charmander injured Zorok. Zorok came to Zorok, and put his hands on him. A flash of black light passed, and Zorok, who was injured and unconscious, recovered. However, due to exhaustion, he needed to rest for a while before waking up. So, Liu, you win. According to the agreement you and Zorok just reached, he will follow you to go on adventures after he wakes up. As a leader, and even as Zorok's relative, I hope you can take good care of him in the future. They are too comfortable under my protection. Zorok certainly saw what Zorok lacked, but because of some previous experiences, he did not want them to experience that kind of pain. Although this was very selfish, Zorok would rather they were selfish than let them suffer any painful experiences. Unless Zorok strongly wants to go out for adventure, he will let them go. Otherwise, he would rather protect Zorok for life, until the day he dies. Without answering, Liu just looked at Zorok quietly. Liu seemed to be able to feel Zorok's feelings. Although he didn't know why he was like this, Liu understood it very well. Because it was like the desire of parents to protect their children. Every parent didn't want their children to be hurt. They even hoped that their children could stay with them for a lifetime. Celebi, who had been staying quietly aside, suddenly sang a song. The sound was like the sound of nature, blowing away the haze in everyone's hearts. La la la. A song of elves brought Liu and all the elves into a dream. Unexpectedly, they all sang softly to Celebi's beat at the same time. Dividing line. Zorok, I'm leaving. I will definitely come back to see you in the future. And everyone, you must be obedient. Woo woo woo, Zorok, I don't want to leave. Separation is always the most painful, but today's separation is just for a better reunion tomorrow, but parting is always uncomfortable. Zorok, who has never left the tribe, suddenly has to leave his friends and relatives who he has lived with since childhood. This is definitely a bit cruel to him. So, Zorok, you have to be strong. We can't accompany you forever. You have to walk the road ahead on your own. Although Zorok said the words of reprimand, his eyes still showed reluctance, worry, and sadness. Got it, Zorok. I will definitely work hard. You must be well in the future. I will miss you. Woo woo. After saying that, Zorok ran out without looking back, fearing that if he stayed here, he would not be able to help but stay. Hey, Zorok. Zorok, I will take good care of Zorok, don't worry. I'm leaving first. Goodbye everyone. After saying goodbye to Zorok, Liu hurriedly chased after Zorok. Zorok, I hope you won't be like me. Everyone has his own path. Will your path be the right one? Zorok looked at the disappearing figures of Zorok and Liu, and murmured with a confused look in his eyes. Hey, Soraya, slow down. Why are you running so fast? Panting, Liu finally caught up with Soraya and quickly stopped him. This is a new book by a new author. I don't have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment. Please do anything. Chapter 103 System Initial Exchange. Liu. I'm so scared. I don't know whether my choice today is right or wrong. But since I was a child, I have longed for life outside. Those people told me that the world outside is bigger, more beautiful, and more exciting. There are all kinds of exciting and adventurous things to do outside. So I thought about when I could go out and experience the scenes those people talked about. But when that day really came, I found that I couldn't bear to leave Zorok and the others. Zorok curled up in Liu's arms, talking about his previous experiences, his dreams, and his fears. Zorok. Don't worry, Zorok, I will never let you regret your choice today. Liu didn't know how to comfort Zorok. Perhaps only time can prove everything. Dividing line. Liu, you succeeded too. Is this Zorok? So cute. As soon as he walked out of the forest, Liu was seen by the sharp-eyed Shilinfi. Then after seeing Zorok in Liu's arms, he was immediately attracted by Zorok's cute appearance. Well, this time it went smoothly, and Zoroa is willing to take the risk with me. Zoroa, come and make friends with everyone. Liu hopes to distract Zoroa from his sadness of parting by diverting attention. Hello, my name is Zoroa. Seeing Shilinfi and the Ibrahimovic in her arms, Zoroa was indeed temporarily attracted as Liu thought. Hello, my name is Ibrahimovic. Although the Ibrahimovic in Shilinfi's arms was used to being alone, he still wanted to have a partner. Well, you guys get familiar with each other first. I have something else to do. I will come to you later. Let Ibrahimovic and Zoroa get familiar with each other first, and Liu and Shilinfi came to Oki Jingayu. Mr. Oki, I really troubled you today. I don't know how to thank you for your help to us. Liu said gratefully. Although Oki Jingayu only did a small thing, in the eyes of Liu and Shilinfi, this is the most important thing for them now. It's okay. It's my honor to help you. Besides, this is also an investment. Omu Jingayu smiled slightly and said jokingly, haha. Well, then Mr. Omu, just wait for the day when I succeed. I believe that day will not be far away. The first sentence was said with a firm look, and the second sentence was said in Liu's heart, which was also a request and encouragement for himself. Let's go. Since you have all successfully captured the elves, let's go back. Omu Jingayu said. Okay. After responding, Liu and Shilinfi called Devi and Zorok, followed Omu Jingayu, and walked in the direction they came from, and began to return. When he came to the outside world, Liu had a feeling of traveling through time. Although he didn't know how many times he had experienced traveling through time, Liu was always very interested in this magical experience. Mr. Oak, we really have to say goodbye this time. We have to leave. I wanted to leave earlier, but it has been delayed for so long. It will be too late if I don't leave now. It's just, Liu, you should leave tomorrow. Because, walking to the crystal glass window, Jingayu Oak pressed a button, and then the glass window opened automatically, showing the scene outside. I didn't expect today to pass so quickly. It's already evening. Seeing the starry night sky outside, Liu suddenly found that time had come to evening without him noticing. But he didn't feel hungry yet, maybe because his attention was distracted by various things. Then I can only trouble Mr. Oak again. I don't think Mr. Oak will be willing to let us live on the streets, Liu said, looking at Jingayu Oak who seemed to be smiling at the side. Okay, no trouble. Jingayu Oak thought that Liu would still be polite and embarrassed like before, but who knew that he would change so quickly. Seeing Damu Jingayu's frustrated look, Liu and Shilinfi both laughed secretly, and Liu also slandered in his heart, you are already so old, and you still play these childish tricks, really? Following Damu Jingayu, Liu and his friends came to the accommodation area, randomly chose a room, and lived there. Although Damu Jingayu repeatedly asked Liu and his friends to live in another building he built not far from the researcher, which was specially built for Damu family members. But Liu directly refused, without any reason, just because he didn't want to run around anymore. After a busy day, he suddenly relaxed, and suddenly felt tired and hungry. Liu and his friends just wanted to eat and sleep quickly, and it was absolutely impossible for them to run around again. After a delicious meal, Liu and Shilin Fei could finally rest well. As for Eevee and Zorok, they came to the system world and lived with Charmander. As for Charmander and their food problem, Liu didn't have to worry about it all the time. After obtaining more than 100 million top-grade spirit stones, Liu directly exchanged a lot of food from the exchange system. Of course, these foods grow on trees, or on the ground, not the kind of prepared food. The things Liu exchanged can not only serve as food, but also enhance the talents or strength of the elves, if eaten for a long time. For example, the dragon fruit that Liu exchanged for Charmander is not the kind of dragon fruit on Earth, but a fruit that contains fire and dragon energy. After eating, it can increase Charmander's control over the flame, and even speed up the progress of Charmander's understanding of the dragon attribute, helping him to evolve into a fire-breathing dragon as soon as possible. There are also spiritual fruits like Cassie, which can increase mental power after eating, and can also be used to restore mental power. The dragon fruit of Magikarp has roughly the same effect as the dragon fruit of Charmander. Moreover, water otters can also eat dragon fruit, which may stimulate his dragon transforming talent as soon as possible, and become the first water otter in history to transform into a dragon. Liu prepared the tempered coconut for Scyther. The shell of this fruit is extremely hard, but the flesh inside is very delicious. Eating it can increase the strength of the body. Butterfree likes nectar, so Liu specially chose the wood god drunk for her. Just hearing the name, it is amazing. Even the wood god is intoxicated by this flower. How can it not be amazing? Every time this flower blooms, the flower is as big as a car. The fragrance of the flower is overflowing, especially the nectar collected from it, which is extremely sweet. After consumption, this nectar can enhance Butterfree's affinity with nature. In the long run, Butterfree will definitely be more handy every time it releases a skill, and the power of the skill will also be increased. This is a new book by a new author. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for anything. Chapter 104, Departure Viridian Forest. Iron Dumbbell is relatively simple, because he does not need to eat any food, so Liu did not prepare anything for him. Because Iron Dumbbell grows by absorbing metal, Liu gave him all the metals obtained in the secret realm and let him use them by himself. Liu was also very attentive to Eevee and Zorok, who joined last. Yin Yang fruit, which contains the power of yin and yang, is the most suitable for Eevee. Mysterious fruit, a kind of mist fruit that grows in the misty forest. The so-called misty fruit is very strange. This fruit has no specific shape, but a gathering of black mist, and its effect is also very powerful. After eating it, it can improve the control of shadows. This effect is tailor-made for Zorok, just right to increase Zorok's shadow talent. As for Zyoshan and Zyobei, because they are mythical beasts, and they are also earth mythical beasts, these fruits have no effect on them. At most they can just fill their stomachs. So they still prefer to eat meat fruits. After all, they are carnivores. And Mutwo, with his strength, these fruits are basically useless, right? Moreover, Liu had never seen Mutwo eat for such a long time. Perhaps the strong men at this level could go without food for 3 years. As soon as they lay down on the bed, they felt deeply exhausted. Liu and Shilin Fei soon fell into a deep sleep. The next day, when the sun climbed up the branches, Liu woke up slowly, while Shilin Fei had already gotten up and dressed. After washing up, Liu and Shilin Fei went out to have breakfast together, and then rested for a while, before finding Damu Jingayu to formally propose to leave. Well, I won't keep you here any longer. I hope I can see you at this year's Kanto Rookie Contest. And this, I think you must not have learned about the techniques of raising elves, right? You know, raising elves is also one of the skills that a trainer must master. This contains some formulas for raising elves that our Oak family has researched, as well as problems that may be encountered during the growth of elves and their solutions. Although I can't guarantee that all of them are applicable, they are definitely effective. I hope you can study hard, which will also be of great help to your elves. Handing Liu an instrument that looks like an elf machine, Oak Jingayu asked with a smile, but his eyes were very sure of his judgment. This seems to be impossible. By the way, do you need to think hard about elves' food? I really can't do this. Liu was most afraid of using his brain to study something, otherwise his previous grades would not be so bad. Liu, leave this to me. Shi Linfei stepped forward, took the information from Liu's hand, and said to Liu, well. Seeing Shi Linfei's eyes, Liu immediately understood what she meant. Shi Linfei has always been in a passive position. Every time, it was Liu who came to solve the problem, and she could only accept Liu's help silently, but she couldn't do anything for him. Now there is an opportunity in front of her. Since Liu doesn't like these trivial things, let her do it. Shi Linfei wants to prove to Liu that she is not a vase, and she can also help Liu instead of being protected blindly. By the way, Mr. Oak, is there a trainer guild or a gym in Pallet City? I feel that my current strength is enough to get the title of junior trainer. And the badges, it's time to get the first badge. If I keep procrastinating, there is not much hope of passing the preliminaries, let alone participating in the Kanto rookie contest. Just as Liu was about to leave, he suddenly remembered his system task, so he hurriedly asked Oak Jingayu. Well, our Pallet City is the family city of the Oak family, and our Oak family is famous for its research in the mainland, so there are research institutes of our family in many places on the mainland. But there are no gyms. Although our family is one of the best, we have not applied to open any gyms. But we still have a trainers guild here. Patiently explaining to Liu, Oak Jingayu seemed to have something to say, but it seemed that there was nothing. Well, in that case, then we'll say goodbye. Mr. Oak, goodbye. Finally leaving, Liu and Shi Linfei each held a Pokémon, which were the Zorok and Eevee, that they had just captured. Because they were not used to the environment of the system world, Liu took them with him, and let them go back, after they got used to it. Walking to the place, where the aircraft was specially planned to take off in Pallet City, Liu and Shi Linfei sat on the flying skateboard, and flew out of the city. Because every city in the magical continent covers a large area, if Liu and his friends were asked to walk out of the city, they would not be able to walk out of the city until dark, so they had to use the flying skateboard to get out of the city earlier. If you want to use an aircraft, you must take off from a special place, otherwise the city's guardian will arrest you for violating the city's order or even threatening the city's safety. More than half an hour later, Liu and his team finally walked out of the city and came to the suburbs bordering the city. Because this place connects the Pallet City and the Evergreen Forest, there are many towns in between. Those towns are inhabited by people who yearn for nature and don't want to live in the steel jungle. There are also some ordinary civilians. After all, not everyone can buy a place to live in the city. On this continent, there are still more ordinary people. Those high-ranking families still account for a small part, and they can only get a better life by relying on the efforts of ordinary people. Without ordinary people to serve them, where would they get so much time to train? And there are geniuses among ordinary people, and some people with luck against the sky. And those families, how could they last for thousands of years, just by relying on their family members? Only by constantly absorbing powerful foreign blood to strengthen their families can they exist on this continent for a long time. Walking along the way, watching one town after another passing by, Liu and his friends also had a lot of feelings in their hearts. No wonder the ancients said, reading 10,000 books is like traveling 10,000 miles. This is not without reason. The flying skateboard stopped at the outskirts of Changpan Forest. Liu and his friends were ready to walk through the forest, adventuring, training, and fighting at the same time. As for the destination, because Liu did not have a specific goal, it had not been determined yet, just walking first. This once became an excuse for Shi Linfei to complain about Liu. If he ran around without a goal, what if he got lost? Of course, this was just a joke. Chapter 105, First Battle in the Forest Arbok. Just when Liu and his friends were about to enter the forest, Muto finally came back. Since they separated yesterday, Liu had not seen Muto again. But after asking Jingai Omu, Liu learned that Muto went to visit an old friend. Although he was very curious about who could be friends with Muto, seeing Jingai Omu kept silent and obviously didn't want to say more, Liu gave up the idea of asking. But he also had some guesses in his mind. It should be him. What happened in the 3000 years of the mainland? Liu was very curious, especially the names of those two people became taboos, which was also what he couldn't figure out. But it seemed that everyone and everywhere was avoiding these things. Jinguomi kept silent about this matter, and the relevant books also glossed over it. So it's not so easy to know what happened. And he doesn't have that strength now. This matter is obviously not simple, so it's better not to cause trouble. Mutuo, we are going to go through the forest for adventure training. Will you go with us, or go to the small world? Without saying much, Liu just told Mutuo about the current plan, and asked him what he thought. Well, then I'll go to the small world. You have to be careful. Although there are no powerful elves in the evergreen forest, there are occasionally powerful elves that migrate from other places. Sometimes you will even encounter elf poachers. Those people are cruel and ruthless. They will not show mercy to you, even if you are now a divine beast master. I don't know why. Maybe Mutuo suddenly changed his nature, and he actually began to care about Liu's safety, and took the initiative to remind Liu of some dangers he might encounter. Well, thank you. Liu looked at Mutuo seriously, and was very grateful. If it weren't for Mutuo's sudden reminder, he would definitely deal with the next adventure with the plot he saw in the anime. Liu has always treated everything in the magical continent with the eyes and attitude of an earthling. As a result, he encountered a lot of troubles, and took a lot of detours. Liu could never see this world as a real world, and always had a god's perspective, and regarded it as a game. But the fact is just the opposite. This is not only a real world, but also a cruel world. Although adventures with elves seem to be beautiful, happy, and carefree, this is only on the surface. In secret, there are intrigues between families and competition for power and resources. The struggle between the Alliance and the Pluto forces has lasted for thousands of years. Poachers who hunt elves and even covet the mythical beasts and seek personal gain are the dark side of the continent. Although these dark things basically do not appear in front of ordinary people under the cover of the Alliance, they are real, no matter what your attitude is. If it were not for Mutuo's reminder, Liu would still deal with the next adventure with an indifferent attitude, and sooner or later he would suffer a big loss, or even endanger his life. Step by step, Liu and Shilinfei set off from a small town called Sawyer Town, and began their adventure in the magical continent. Time passed slowly, and after walking for 3 consecutive days, they finally left the town outside the evergreen forest and really entered the forest. During these 3 days, Liu and Shilinfei also met many trainers. It's just that, because Liu was not interested, and Shilinfei currently only had one elf, neither of them had fought. After entering the evergreen forest, Liu understood how boundless this forest was. In the past, Liu didn't feel anything when he flew by on the flying skateboard. Now that he is really in it, Liu realizes how insignificant he is. The towering trees block out the sun, and there are many elves leisurely foraging and playing in it, as if they didn't feel Liu's arrival. When he arrived in the forest, Liu's training officially began. Because Charmander hasn't evolved yet, Liu called it out from the system world. Charmander, you are on the verge of evolution now, but you can't find that feeling. So, you need to keep fighting, and find that feeling in the battle. Fighting is definitely a good way to train. Many elves break through in battle, which is why Liu asked Charmander to come out. Roar. With a confident roar, Charmander was full of fighting spirit. Seeing that other partners are improving their strength every day, but he is stuck on the edge of evolution, this is absolutely unbearable for him. Very good, then let's start challenging those elves. The first one is you, Arbok. Seeing the Arbok resting on the tree in the distance, and then seeing through the system that his level is only 17, Liu took him as Charmander's first target. Name, Arbok attribute, poison qualification, gold level, black iron level 17 ability, innate skills, petrification, can petrify the opponent, and make the opponent unable to move. It can also petrify itself, and improve its own defense and attack power in a short period of time. The rest are not opened. Learning skills, bind. Use your own body to bind the opponent, and make it unable to move. Bite. Use sharp teeth to destroy the opponent's defense, and can be used with the dissolving liquid skill. Dissolving liquid. Inject venom into the body through the teeth. Big snake stares. Release deterrence through the eyes, to reduce the opponent's momentum. This Arbok is definitely the most powerful opponent of Charmander in history. Not only is a level higher than Charmander, but the skills are also very powerful. For Charmander, this is definitely a severe test. Hey, Arbok, I want to challenge you. Do you dare to accept the challenge? Roar. Liu challenged Arbok under the big tree where Arbok lived. Charmander also roared, his voice full of provocation. Arbok, who was suddenly awakened, was very upset when he saw Charmander with a provocative look on his face. He went directly to the ground along the big tree and then stared at Charmander with intimidating eyes. Very good, Arbok, let's fight. Charmander, Sparks. To strike first, Liu directly let Charmander use Sparks, which was both to seize the first-hand advantage and to test the opponent's strength first. Squeak. The first attack did not gain an advantage and was easily dodged by Arbok. The scorching sparks directly burned the grass under its feet. Hiss. After dodging Charmander's attack, Arbok rushed towards Charmander like lightning, obviously preparing to launch an attack after getting close. Chapter 106. Defeat System Error. Charmander, be careful, don't let him get close to you. Arbok's skills can only attack after getting close to him, and once he gets close to him, it is basically difficult for Charmander to escape with his current strength. Because once Arbok's entanglement skill hits, Charmander can't get away at all. Swish, swish, swish. Charmander kept dodging Arbok's attempt to entangle him, just like flying a kite. Every time he dodged Arbok's attack, he immediately threw a fireball to fight back. Hiss. Arbok, who had been unable to attack for a long time, was a little angry. His whole body suddenly turned into the color of rock, and then he opened his mouth wide, and black and green corrosive dissolving liquid spit out of his mouth. Sizzle, swish, swish. Just like boiling hot oil poured on the ground, it instantly made a sizzling sound. Although Charmander dodged quickly, he was still splashed by the dissolving liquid and immediately let out a painful roar. Roar. Charmander's arms and thighs were covered with blood, and his flesh was directly corroded. It was simply horrible. Charmander, are you okay? Liu was shocked. He didn't expect Charmander to be attacked. According to Charmander's long training, Liu felt that he should not be able to avoid this attack. However, Liu still underestimated Arbok's strength. He saw that the opponent's skills had not been fully learned, but he was severely injured in an instant because of an attack. Roar. I can still continue to fight. The pain in his body still couldn't stop Charmander's desire to win. He struggled to stand up and wanted to continue fighting. Hiss. The big snake stared. Seeing that Charmander still wanted to struggle, Arbok's impatient eyes suddenly widened with anger, as if it was the eyes of the underworld from hell, and the invisible oppressive momentum rushed towards Charmander. Roar. With a weak roar, Charmander finally fell to the ground exhausted due to mental oppression and the continuous serious injuries on his body. Ding, the battle failed. Charmander's experience is full. Experience gained 0. Charmander. Rushing forward, Liu took out the potion to remove the corrosion state and the potion to restore physical strength from the system world and gave it to Charmander to drink. Woo. The unconscious Charmander subconsciously whimpered twice and then fell into a deep sleep. Have a good rest. Charmander, I was too careless this time, I'm sorry. After taking Charmander back to the system world, Liu looked at Arbok on the side and said, thank you, Arbok, this battle taught me to never underestimate the opponent. You won. Thank you for being willing to fight with me. Hiss. You are also very good, trainer. Arbok seemed to be very unconcerned about the victory. After replying, he climbed up the tree and continued to sleep. After a long silence, Liu came back to his senses. The figure disappeared, and Liu returned directly to the system world. Liu, how could Charmander be so badly injured? Seeing Liu come in, Linfei, who was originally taking care of Charmander, immediately complained and asked, I'm sorry, Fifei. I've always been too arrogant, and this time Charmander got hurt. Liu said, it's okay if you like fighting, but you must be careful next time, and don't be stubborn. Linfei didn't know what to say, because she didn't like fighting, so she didn't understand the thoughts of Liu, a warmonger. Well, there will definitely not be a next time. By the way, how are you learning? After assuring Linfei, Liu suddenly asked, hey, the self-breeding is not that simple. Not only do you have to consider the elf's attributes, characteristics, and personality, you also have to change the breeding method according to the different physical qualities of the elf at different stages. And the formula for making energy blocks must be very precise, and it must be changed at any time according to the elf's state. It's so complicated, I dare not say when I can learn it. Speaking of the progress of learning to breed elves, Shielinfei was full of complaints, because it was really too difficult. Moreover, the information that Damu Jingayu gave them was the result of countless years of research by the Damu family. Not to mention learning all of it and applying it to reality, it would take several months to understand it from beginning to end. Therefore, if Shielinfei wants to learn and master the skills of raising elves, it will take at least 3 years to get started. Why are those doctoral level figures all old men and women? It's because research takes a lot of time. Without decades of painstaking research, how can you learn tedious and complicated knowledge in one fell swoop? So Shielinfei still has a long way to go. Thank you for your hard work, Fifei. Don't be anxious, take your time, I believe you can do it. Knowing that Shielinfei was trying to help him train elves better, Li Yu was very moved. Although he knew that she was very hard, Li Yu didn't want to disappoint Shielinfei's kindness, so he didn't say anything to dissuade her from learning. I'm willing to do anything for you. Dividing line. And on the second day after Li Yu and his friends entered the evergreen forest, the system's prompt sound suddenly came. When Li Yu heard the system's prompt, his face suddenly turned black. Ding, an unknown error occurred. The elf egg hatching time has increased. The specific time is undetermined. It will not exceed 1 month at most. Please wait patiently. That's right, the elf egg that was supposed to hatch in 3 days had problems again for some reason, and it was delayed indefinitely. As for the 1 month thing, Li Yu said, if I believe you again, there will be ghosts. Hey, accept your fate. I have no choice. But in the end, Li Yu still followed the system. Otherwise what could he do? The system is the boss. Do whatever it wants. Li Yu can't control it. Li Yu, let's have a picnic together today. Call all the little dragons out. They train every day, and they need time to rest. Li Yu, who wanted to cross the evergreen forest, still didn't see any signs of wanting to walk out of the forest after walking for a week. For so long, Li Yu and Charmander challenged the elves in the forest every day. This time, Li Yu did not choose a powerful elf to challenge, but chose an elf with similar strength to Charmander. Challenging high-level enemies is a shortcut to improving strength, but it also has great hidden dangers. If you fail every time, it will not only affect the elf's confidence, but also affect the elf's potential in repeated injuries and failures. So Charmander challenged elves of the same level this time, but even so, he had wins and losses. And he still didn't feel like he was evolving, which was the most uncomfortable thing for Charmander. Well, it's time to relax. Nodding in agreement, Li Yu called Charmander and the others out of the system world, and then took out a lot of food and barbecue equipment. Great. As soon as all the elves appeared in the outside world, they immediately played happily together. The world of elves is actually very simple, without as many intrigues as humans. Put all your energy into training, go all out in battle, and immediately return to a silly and cute state when you rest. This is the elf who does everything wholeheartedly. Newcomer and new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for all kinds of requests. Chapter 107, Forest Encounter Friendly Match. Charmander, you've worked hard during this period. Eat more of this, it's delicious. And our lovely Zorok and Eevee, you two should eat more too. And Cassie, Scyther, Water Otter, Roaring Sky, Xiaobei, everyone hurry up and start eating. Otherwise, there will be nothing left. Because Magikarp couldn't eat barbecue, Li Yu could only make some Pokémon food for him and let him eat it in the creek next to him. As for Iron Dumbbell, he watched his companions silently, but he couldn't eat anything, and he didn't need to eat. Iron Dumbbell just needed to absorb the metal that Li Yu gave him. So you can see that Li Yu and his friends were happily eating delicious barbecue, while Iron Dumbbell was holding a piece of metal on the side. Fortunately, no one saw this scene. Otherwise, if they didn't know, they would think that Li Yu and his friends treated them differently. and just when Li Yu and his friends were having a picnic, an embarrassed figure came to them. After some communication, Li Yu learned that his name was Wu Ning, a trainer who had just traveled. But after the exchange, Li Yu seemed to have discovered a serious problem, because this trainer's brain didn't seem to work very well. Because, Li Yu, your life is too good, right? You can even barbecue. I've eaten all my food a long time ago. If I hadn't met you, I would have only been able to pick some wild fruits to eat. Wu Ning took the barbecue that Li Yu had just made and ate it beautifully. He said with some envy, then why don't you bring more food? Can't the space backpack fit it? Because Li Yu had a system world, Shi Lin Fei had never considered food, sleep and other issues, so she asked curiously. Well, actually I prepared everything, but I just forgot to bring more food. I thought I could pass through the evergreen forest quickly, but who knew? Wu Ning smiled awkwardly, scratched his head, and said a little embarrassedly, well, it's like this for newcomers who have no experience. I've also experienced your tragic experience, so I can understand. Thinking of the first adventure before, Li Yu was also due to insufficient preparation, and had to return to Earth helplessly, so he felt very touched. Well, at first I just challenged trainers passing by around the town, and I wouldn't be far away from the town. But this time I suddenly went out for adventure, so it became like this. Speaking of his experience, Wu Ning was miserable. But while complaining, he did not forget to stuff food into his mouth, as if he was afraid that he would not be able to eat. Speechless, how hungry are you? Li Yu and Shi Lin Fei smiled helplessly, and this thought flashed through their minds at the same time. With Wu Ning's participation, Li Yu's trip became more relaxed and interesting. After just half an hour of rest after dinner, Wu Ning proposed to have a friendly match with Li Yu. Li Yu, because I just started adventuring, I only have 4 Pokémon, so I can only fight 4 vs 4 with you. It seems that he is very embarrassed about being a rookie trainer, and Wu Ning is a little embarrassed when he speaks. Haha, don't be like this. In fact, I'm also a rookie trainer, that is, I have just started adventuring for less than a month. With a slight smile, Li Yu walked to the other side of the open space and stood still, looking directly at Wu Ning and said, well, I hope you can use all your strength, don't let me defeat you so easily. Perhaps Li Yu's words aroused Wu Ning's self-confidence, so he immediately became full of fighting spirit and even provoked Li Yu. Then you just watch. Don't cry if you lose. Faced with the provocation, Li Yu naturally couldn't be timid, and also fought back verbally. This battle is 4 vs 4, both sides can use 4 elves to fight. If all 4 elves of one side lose their combat ability, the other side wins. Now, the battle begins. Because she was bored, Shi Lin Fei imitated the way in the anime, and acted as a referee. Seeing her serious look, Li Yu felt that she still had the feeling of a referee. Come out, Vulpix. Wu Ning. Come out, Charmander. The battle began, and both sides released their elves at the same time. Among them, Wu Ning's first elf was Vulpix of the fire type, and Li Yu's first elf was also of the fire type, but it was Charmander. Through the comparison of momentum, Li Yu found that the strength of the 2 elves was comparable, but Li Yu did not relax at all. Because the battle with Arbok taught Li Yu a truth, that is, never underestimate your opponent, even if the opponent is weaker than you. As for why he did not use the system's identification ability, it was because Li Yu wanted to cultivate his eyesight, judgment and reaction. However, if he relied on the system to assist in every battle, to obtain information about his opponent, Li Yu always felt that there were great disadvantages. If the system suddenly disappeared, Li Yu would be equivalent to losing everything if he relied entirely on external objects. External objects are external objects after all, and only his own power will follow him forever. Moreover, the cultivators are against the will of heaven, and they change their fate with their strong willpower, seize the power of heaven and earth and turn it into their own body, go against the cycle of yin and yang, and jump out of the 5 element. Although Li Yu is only a half-baked cultivator, it does not mean that he does not have that kind of belief, and there is no harm in cultivating his own power after all. So Li Yu decided to rely entirely on his own ability in the usual battles, and he would not regret it, even if he lost every time. Just treat it as accumulating experience and improving his combat awareness. When it comes to the real game, or when it comes to a life and death crisis, he will use the system to assist himself. Because every round in the game is very important, there can be no mistakes. And when facing a crisis, if you don't use the system to help yourself, it will be too late to regret if something happens. Vulpix, Smooth Eyes, Hypnosis. Wooning first commanded Vulpix to launch an attack, and the order of skills was also very particular and very scheming. But the fascinating eyes stared at Charmander closely. Although it did not cause a great deterrent, it did have an impact to a certain extent. The hypnosis skill that followed was greatly enhanced under the deterrence of the Smooth Eyes. Although Charmander had a firm will, he was still a little confused. HMM. A series of attacks caught Liu off guard, and he didn't react at all, and Charmander's combat power was greatly weakened. Charmander, Howl, Alloy Claws. Since the opponent can weaken the combat power, Liu will increase Charmander's combat power. Howling can enhance one's own momentum, increase attack, and increase speed. Because Vulpix is also a fire type, Charmander's spark skill is basically disabled, so Liu asked Charmander to use the Alloy Claw skill. Lightning Flash. Wooning would naturally not let Vulpix stand there stupidly and let Charmander attack, so he also used the Lightning Flash skill. Chapter 108 Battle of Wooning. Vulpix's figure was like lightning, disappearing in a flash, dodging Charmander's Alloy Claw skill, and a stream of corrosive venom was reflected back at Charmander. Roar. With a roar, Charmander was a little angry and a little afraid to see this kind of venom attack again. After all, the last battle with Arbok was still vivid in his mind. Roar. Sparks. Boom. Sizzle. Without waiting for Liu's command, Charmander used the spark skill directly. The scorching flames and corrosive venom collided in the air, and the venom was directly evaporated, making a sizzling sound. Roar. Alloy Claw. Just as everyone's eyes were attracted by the collision of moves in the air, Charmander instantly accelerated to the side of Vulpix. Before Vulpix could react, the metallic claws directly slammed into it. Ouch. With a painful roar, Vulpix was knocked far away before falling to the ground. He tried to struggle to get up, but the pain in his chest was like a maggot on his tarsal bone, making it impossible for him to get up at all. Vulpix, cheer up, don't give up. Wooning's encouragement seemed to have great magic power. After hearing it, Vulpix seemed to have infinite power surging all over his body. He stood up again and looked directly at Charmander. Very good, Vulpix, use Lightning Flash again. Fierce Toxin. As Wooning was commanding, Vulpix disappeared again, like a flash of lightning, and quickly came behind Charmander, and then the corrosive venom shot straight at Charmander's back. Humph. Charmander's nose sprayed a spark, and a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. Obviously, he didn't take Vulpix's attack seriously at all. Ha. Over shoulder throw. Charmander ran past Venom, then grabbed Vulpix's body with his claws, concentrated all his strength on his arms, and shouted, and lifted Vulpix into the air, and slammed it to the ground. Bang. Ugh. As the violent collision sounded to everyone's ears, the painful sound of Vulpix, before he fainted also came. Ha. You are great, Vulpix, come back. Lobster Soldier, it's up to you next. Taking out the Pokeball to take Vulpix back, Wooning released another fiery red lobster. As soon as this lobster came out, it waved its sharp claws and looked aggressive. Lobster Soldier, use Hard Bang. Scare. The hard shell on the Lobster Soldier's body continued to swell, and then it became like a muscular shrimp ball, with its whole body tense. For this hilarious scene, Liu felt that he really shouldn't laugh, but he really couldn't help it. Ha ha ha. Linfei didn't have so many concerns. She didn't look like a referee at all. She just laughed out loud. Well, I'm really not here to make people laugh. Wooning was embarrassed. He wanted to explain, but his voice got smaller and smaller. Obviously. Let's not talk too much. Let's start the battle. Charmander Dragon's Fury. After the battle with Vulpix, Charmander's rage value has accumulated almost. It's just right to use the Dragon's Fury skill to avoid the damage reduction caused by attribute restraint. Moreover, the Dragon's Fury skill is also the most powerful skill of Charmander at present, and it is also the most suitable skill to use now. After the defense of the Lobster Soldier was enhanced, the Alloy Claws were almost useless, and the sparks were restrained by the attributes, So Liu had no other choice. Roar. The dragon-shaped phantom with the pressure of the dragon rushed directly towards the lobster soldier. The speed made it impossible for the lobster soldier to dodge. Scare. Bubble. The bubble skill was originally an attack skill, but it was played in a new way in the hands of the lobster soldier. Just before the dragon's fury was about to hit, he condensed a super large bubble to wrap himself. Boom. This bubble seemed to have the characteristics of absorbing attacks and rebounding. After the dragon-shaped phantom hit the bubble, most of the attacks were dispersed and absorbed by the bubble, and the last small part was directly rebounded to Charmander. Roar. I didn't expect that my attack would be taken so easily and rebounded. Although it was easy to dodge the rebound attack, the feeling of hitting cotton was really unpleasant for Charmander. With a roar, Charmander directly pounced on the lobster soldier. Since the long-range attack didn't work, he would fight in close combat. Roar. Alloy claws. The alloy claws of the level pierced the bubble and attacked the lobster soldier, but there was no achievement. Overhand throw. Grabbing the lobster soldier's claws with both claws, Charmander used the overhand throw again. But the lobster soldier who was thrown hard didn't feel anything at all. He stood up and shook his head. The lobster soldier looked at Charmander with lifeless eyes and a silly face. Charmander wasted this Pokémon that couldn't be beaten at all. Moreover, after a long battle, Charmander's physical strength was already a little exhausted. Lobster soldier, high speed star. Cut. Just when Liu was about to take back Charmander and replace another Pokémon, Lobster Soldier finally launched his attack skill. Charmander, who was exhausted, didn't resist at all and had no time to react. He was directly hit hard on the chest by Lobster Soldier's double claws. This attack was obviously reserved because the cut skill uses double claws to cut the opponent, which is definitely a very cruel skill, but now he just hit Charmander with his giant claws. It can be seen that Lobster Soldier is still very measured. It was just a friendly match, and he didn't use his full strength. He just used the strength that could defeat Charmander. Thank you, Lobster Soldier. Come back, Charmander. After thanking Lobster Soldier, Liu took back Charmander and released his second Pokémon, Cassie. Because the Lobster Soldier is a physical spirit, its defense is not so easy to break, so Cassie's mental attack can play a greater role at this time. Cassie yawned lazily, still looking like he hadn't woken up yet. Wooning, take it. Cassie, illusion attack. To deal with a confused big fool like the Lobster Soldier, you have to use illusion attack, because their mental power is very weak, and they are not very resistant to illusion. But, as his hands waved, a colorful psychedelic light ball enveloped the Lobster Soldier. Scare. Scare. As if crazy, the Lobster Soldier waved his giant claws and attacked the surroundings randomly, obviously entering an illusion. I didn't expect the Lobster Soldier to die heroically so soon. Although he didn't lose his combat ability, his current state is no different. This is a new book by a new author, and the author doesn't have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for all kinds of requests. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109, The Killer, Fossilized Pterosaur. Hey, come back, Lobster Soldier. Liu, you are very powerful, but my most powerful Pokémon has not yet appeared. Wooning was reluctant to take back the Lobster Soldier, but he was not discouraged at all. Instead, he confidently released a new Pokémon, and this Pokémon turned out to be the huge white body waved the lavender wings, and the fossil pterosaur hovering in the air was so powerful that people dared not look directly at it. What? Unexpectedly, Wooning actually had such a Pokémon. Liu was a little surprised and did not dare to be careless about the next battle. Although the level of Wooning's fossil pterosaur was not very high among the rookie trainers, being able to have such a Pokémon is definitely in a strong position. It's amazing. I met the fossil pterosaur by chance around the town. Although I don't have the strength to defeat him, he is willing to be my partner without any care. Speaking of the fossil pterosaur, Wooning's excited face showed a look of nostalgia. Hey, Woo, you will definitely be very powerful in the future. Don't worry about these details. The fossil pterosaur looked at Wooning indifferently and said lightly, but his tone was full of determination and confidence. Hey, don't I have this luck? Fossil pterosaur. I also want to subdue one. Looking at Wooning and the fossil pterosaur with envy, Li Yu said with some jealousy. With a silly smile, Wu and I didn't say much. However, even if you have a fossil pterosaur, I will not necessarily lose to you. After all, his level has not grown up yet, and his strength is not enough to crush everything. Changing the subject, Li Yu fearlessly commanded Cassie, teleport, wonderful space. Because Cassie's attack power was a little weak, it could be said that it was not very effective against the fossil pterosaur, so Li Yu did not intend to let him fight the fossil pterosaur head on, but just to play a restraining role. But the figure flashed above the fossil pterosaur, and the invisible space directly enveloped the fossil pterosaur. The wonderful space was activated, and the fossil pterosaur was instantly bound in it. Very good, Cassie, come back. Water Otter, it's up to you next. Quickly take back Cassie, and then release the Water Otter, because the wonderful space can't trap the fossil pterosaur for long. So Li Yu must race against time, and seize the time. Use the dragon scale blade in the impact state. Because the opportunity is fleeting, Li Yu strives to kill with one blow, so he directly lets the Water Otter attack with all his strength. First, the impact skill is accelerated first to increase the impact force, and then the dragon scale blade is swung quickly. The sharp dragon scales with an unstoppable momentum directly break the wonderful space and cut the fossil pterosaur. Although the fossil pterosaur is known as a fossil elf, this does not mean that his defense is unbreakable. And the Water Otter does not use ordinary shells, but the dragon scales of some dragon elves. So after one blow, the fossil pterosaur did not lose its combat effectiveness. But the fossil pterosaur that completely took this move is definitely not good. Move at high speed, Ironhead. The flying pterosaur forced its body to be controlled, and then its wings flapped continuously, its figure flashed quickly, and its head became as hard as a fossil. All this happened in a flash, and at this time the Water Otter was still in the air with nowhere to get support, and was directly knocked away by the iron head of the fossil pterosaur. The power of the counterattack was definitely not weaker than the dragon scale blade of the Water Otter. Tap. The Water Otter flew backwards and hit the big tree around the open space, groaning in pain. The Water Otter was definitely not feeling well. Tap. Struggling back to the battlefield, both sides were in a bad state at this time, but they did not have any idea of giving up. Water Otter, come on, you must hold on. Encouraging the Water Otter, Li Yu looked at the fossil pterosaur flying in the air with difficulty. Because the wings of the fossil pterosaur were cut by the dragon scales, the bright red blood was flowing out at this time. Well, Water Otter, use the water gun. Nodding secretly, Li Yu felt that the current situation was still very hopeful to win. Although the Water Otter was also seriously injured, because there was dragon scales protecting his chest, his injuries were definitely not as serious as the fossil pterosaur. Puff. The water gun quickly condensed with both hands, and the Water Otter directly controlled it to attack the fossil pterosaur. The fossil pterosaur hurriedly wanted to dodge, but just flapping its wings, it affected the wound, and the pain directly affected the fossil pterosaur's reaction. Bang! The water gun completely attacked the fossil pterosaur's chest, especially the aftermath of the water gun affected the wound, making him more painful. Ultrasonic. Because the wings were injured, many of the fossil pterosaur's skills were directly disabled, and could not be used easily, otherwise the wound would be more serious. When buzz, the silent ultrasonic waves vibrated in the open space, and Li Yu and the Water Otter didn't notice anything at all. Tap. Shaking his head uncomfortably, the Water Otter felt as if his head was constantly hit by an invisible sledgehammer, which was very painful and uncomfortable. Water Otter, hold on, use the dragon scale blade to finish him off. Finally feeling the invisible fluctuations around him, Li Yu knew that he couldn't drag it on any longer and had to end the battle quickly. Tap. Enduring the bombardment of ultrasonic waves, the Water Otter's body rose up, waving the dragon scale blade with both hands, and cut towards the fossil pterosaur again. Bang. Wing attack. This time, the fossil pterosaur didn't care about any injuries and directly flapped its wings, also sending out a strong wind to block the water otter's actions and counterattack. Sure. But it was still a step too late. The water otter broke through the whistling wind and appeared in front of the fossil pterosaur. The water otter waved the sharp dragon scale blade and turned it into a slap, instantly smashing the fossil pterosaur to the ground. Boom. The violent collision raised a cloud of dust, blocking everyone's sight, but the painful sound of the fossil pterosaur reached everyone's ears. The dust cleared, and the unconscious figure of the fossil pterosaur appeared in front of everyone. The result of this duel was obvious, and it ended with the victory of the water otter. Hey, Liu, I didn't expect that I couldn't beat you with my pterosaur. But even if there is only one Pokémon left, I won't give up easily. After taking back the pterosaur, Wuning was a little frustrated, but he still had no intention of giving up. Jigu. As Wuning said, the pterosaur was his strongest Pokémon, because this last Pokémon turned out to be Pokémon. As a supporting Pokémon, Pokémon's combat power is basically the same as that of Liu's Butterfree. Its supporting ability is very strong, but it is a little weak in real combat. To be continued. New author and new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment. Please do anything. Chapter 110 Victory over Wuning. But even so, Wuning did not give up easily and still had to fight to the last moment. From this, we can also see that his character is the kind of perseverance and never give up. If such a person has a little more luck, his future achievements will definitely not be low. At least he can become a gym level master. In this case, then I will also change a Pokémon. Zoroa, come out. The reason why Zoroa was replaced was that the water otter was seriously injured, so he could take a rest and recover. Moreover, Zoroa's strength is similar to that of Pokémon, so he will not appear to be bullying others. Zoroa? Liu, I didn't expect you to have such a Pokémon. You are so lucky. Now I'm a little suspicious that you are a family member. Seeing that it was Zoroa who appeared, Wuning was a little surprised. After all, these rare Pokémon are not so easy to encounter, and even if you encounter them, you may not be able to subdue them. If it weren't for his good luck and subduing the fossil pterosaur, his current Pokémon Linup would not be enough to fight Liu for so long. But luck is something very illusory, and not everyone can have it. But Wuning didn't expect Liu's luck to be so good that he actually conquered Zoroark. In terms of rarity, Zoroark is a rarer spirit than the fossil pterosaur. No wonder Wuning suspected that Liu was a descendant of the family. Haha, just lucky. Liu smiled faintly and didn't comment. When it comes to luck, who can compare with him? With the biggest bug in the system, he is definitely the one with the best luck. The battle continued. This time Liu did not take the lead in attacking, but chose to defend first. Wuning did not hesitate at all, and directly commanded Pokégu to use skills. Jigu. Yawn. Pokégu yawned several times in a row, as if he hadn't woken up. But the strange thing is, that Pokégu was fine, but Zoroark was drowsy, and looked like he was about to fall asleep. Zoroark, cheer up and use false accusations. Seeing that Zoroark was about to be defeated without a fight like the lobster soldier, Liu shouted hurriedly. Ah. Forced to cheer up, a finger suddenly appeared above Zoroark's head. As the finger kept turning, Pokégu, who was yawning continuously, was shocked to find that he could not use the yawn skill again. Very good, Zoroark, use the claws. The goal was achieved. Liu did not dare to hold back, and directly commanded Zoroark to attack. Swish, swish, swish. The sharp claws continuously grabbed Pokégu. Although Pokégu dodged repeatedly, it was still not as fast as Zoroark. Jigu. Pokégu, who was hit by the claws, cried out in pain, and fell directly from the air. Very good, Zoroark, use pursuit. Liu ordered to pursue the victory. Pokégu. Wuning saw that Pokégu did not even have a chance to fight back, and was always suppressed. While worried, he was also a little helpless. Fight, Pokégu, Fairy whined. Instead of losing helplessly like this, it is better to fight. Maybe there is still hope of victory. Jigu. Buzz. A strange whirlwind suddenly blew up beside Pokégu, who was lying on the ground. The whirlwind lifted Pokémon into the air and then spun towards Zoroya. High-speed movement. Seeing such a strange thing, Zoroya hurriedly used high-speed movement to avoid the whirlwind. But the whirlwind seemed to have its own navigation. No matter where Zoroya ran, it could accurately locate Zoroya's position. Zoroya, don't just run away, attack Pokémon. It was obvious at a glance that the whirlwind was controlled by Pokémon, so Liu shouted hurriedly, revenge. Although he was not attacked and could not trigger the double counter-attack effect of revenge, the power of the skill itself was not weak. Bang! The attack hit again, and this time Pokémon had no room to struggle and fell directly to the ground and lost his ability to fight. The battle is over, and the winner of this battle is Liu. Shilin Fei once again fulfilled her referee's responsibility and announced the results of the battle. Ding, the battle is won. Charmander's experience is full, and 0 experience is gained. Cassie gains 400 experience, and the current level is 16, 36%. Water Otter gains 400 experience, and the current level is 15, 56%. Zoroark gains 300 experience, and the current level is 15, 20%. Then, the system prompt sound of winning was also transmitted to Liu's consciousness, but it was all basic experience gain, and there was no unexpected surprise. Charmander's bottleneck is also very solid. Whether it is strong pressure training or letting other evolved elves guide, there is no way to find that kind of evolution. In this regard, Liu is helpless and can only let fate take its course. Maybe Charmander's opportunity has not yet arrived. Liu can only comfort himself in this way. Liu, you are really amazing. Although I'm a little unconvinced, your strength is unquestionable. Taking back Pokémon, Wuning said helplessly. Don't be like this, I'm just luckier than you, otherwise I will never be able to defeat you. Thinking of the fact that he has the assistance of the system, he can only play like this, and Liu is a little ashamed. Haha, you are too modest. Wuning thought Liu was being modest, and smiled slightly. Okay, I can't help you thinking that. Wuning said that. How could Liu answer? He couldn't tell him about the system, right? So he could only say helplessly. Here, this is an enhanced version of the recovery potion, which can restore the elves' physical strength and injuries more quickly. Hurry up and give it to them, otherwise it will be bad if there are sequelae. Liu took out the recovery potion exchanged from the exchange system and threw it to Wuning, smiling slightly. Since it was not clear, Liu simply stopped explaining, otherwise it would only make people feel that he was hypocritical. So Liu quickly changed the subject and drew attention to the elves. Great, if I use the potion I bought in the store, the fossil pterosaurs will have to pay attention for at least 2 or 3 days to recover. Now with your potion, they may be able to recover tonight. After watching Liu give the little dragon and the others the potion, although they were still a little sluggish, their injuries were not completely healed. But the fact that it can restore consciousness immediately is much better than the potion that Wuning bought. Haha, it's okay, don't worry about it. All the Pokémon drank the potion, and Liu and Wuning let them return to the Pokéball to rest. Of course, Liu's Pokémon must have returned to the system world. Someone may ask if this will not be discovered. Will I tell you that Liu has a trick of sleight of hand? This is something Liu learned specifically to satisfy the Pokémon's wishes of not wanting to stay in the Pokéball. Not all trainers have Liu's ability. This is a new book by a newcomer, and the author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please do anything. Chapter 111, Separation Departure. Although it seems that Charmander and the others were taken back to the Pokéball, they were actually taken back to the system world by Liu. And after they were taken back, other Pokémons in the system world would take care of them, treat them in time, and recover their injuries. This can also be regarded as a personal benefit for Liu. Well, although I believe in your strength, it is not so easy to defeat me. By the way, what do you mean by see you next time? Are you leaving? Liu, who suddenly reacted, seemed to know that it was time to say goodbye, but he was still a little reluctant. After all, the battle with Wuning also made Liu feel a sense of mutual appreciation for Wuning. I'm leaving, because what I pursue is a journey alone. Maybe the life of an ascetic is my true portrayal. The journey of pursuing the road to strength is always lonely. Wooning, who believes in this, is not that he doesn't want to find a companion, but he can't betray the faith in his heart. In that case, I wish you good luck, and I hope you can hit your goal as soon as possible. Only those who can endure loneliness can succeed. Li Yu also agreed with this, so there was no excessive retention. Hey, I'm not going to leave now, okay? Why do I feel like you want to drive me away? And even if I want to leave, well, you have to share some of your food with me. Otherwise, if I'm separated from you, what will I eat? At the end of the conversation, Wooning suddenly felt a little embarrassed. After all, this kind of thing is too embarrassing. Ha ha ha. His face froze, but then Li Yu burst into laughter. Wooning's shy look was so funny that he couldn't help it. Is it really okay for you to be so direct? Wooning was hurt in his heart, but he had no choice but to look at Li Yu with resentment. Dividing line. Time passed by minute, and Li Yu and Wooning sat on the grass, looking at the surrounding scenery, eating delicious food, and drinking natural sweet spring water. Their elves were also playing around, while Shilin Fui sat quietly on a chair, learning the knowledge of raising elves. Everyone, including the elves, was enjoying this rare relaxing leisure time. Although they can rest at any time, Charmander and the others never slacked off, and never stopped training every day. This is not only Li Yu's requirement, but also their requirement for themselves, and more importantly, their pursuit of strong strength, and the pursuit of glory and glory. Finally, it was time to say goodbye, and it was already afternoon. Li Yu, it's getting late, I'll leave first. Thank you for your hospitality, and see you again. Without any delay, Wooning and Li Yu said goodbye and turned away. Their figures gradually disappeared into the depths of the forest. Goodbye. Li Yu and Shilin Fui did not try to keep him too much. All good things must come to an end. Instead of being shy, it's better to part ways amicably and see each other again. Li Yu, when are we leaving? Where is your next destination? Seeing that the time was almost up, Shilin Fui looked at Li Yu and asked, well, you can reach Viridian City and Tamamashi City by passing through Viridian Forest, but let's go to Viridian City. After all, if you go this way, you will feel like the protagonist in anime. After living in the magical continent for such a long time, Li Yu also discovered that the magical continent is actually a true portrayal of anime. You can find all the cities in anime here, and you can also find cities that do not appear in anime. Although I don't know the specific reason, there is no need to pursue it too much. Beijing believes that Li Yu's current strength is not enough to explore the truth behind it. However, this does not affect him to set his own adventure route according to the plot of the anime. Anyway, Li Yu does not have any specific goals. He just wants to take risks, train elves, and challenge gyms to get badges. And the ultimate goal of all this is to improve Li Yu's own strength. Now all the efforts are for his ultimate goal. Anyway, there is no specific plan, just follow the route in the anime. And you can also encounter cities that are not in the anime on the way. After secretly deciding in his heart, Li Yu said to Shilin Fui, well, then let's pack up and start our journey. We have been walking for so many days, and we don't know when we can get out of the forest. Shilin Fui complained while packing. Originally, they were going to buy a map device, which is an instrument that can locate and navigate at any time. But because Li Yu said that he had to walk slowly by himself, he gave up this idea. Therefore, Li Yu and his friends can only rely on their own experience to set off to the outskirts of the forest. And they must always be careful not to go in the wrong direction. Otherwise they will only go further and further away from the destination, Changpan City. Well, it is indeed a bit inconsiderate. I should have bought the map device earlier. No, doesn't the system have an unlimited networking function? It seems to be just right for the current situation. Suddenly remembering something, Li Yu, who was also complaining, stopped the work at hand. When his mind entered the system, Li Yu saw the introduction of the system's unlimited networking function. Since getting the system, Li Yu has not used this function, so he doesn't know much about it. After reading the introduction of the system, Li Yu sighed. Sure enough, none of the system's capabilities are redundant. This unlimited networking function, regardless of location and time, can connect to the Alliance's network, as long as people are on the magical continent. And if Liu wants to borrow the Alliance's network authority, it is a piece of cake, without any pressure, and will not be discovered by anyone. At the same time, as long as the information is stored on the network, Liu can query it, and it is very convenient. Just a thought can find it. Therefore, for Liu and Shilinfei who currently need positioning and navigation, this function is very timely. And because the Pokémon book can be connected to the internet, as long as Liu wants, he can find any trainer with a Pokémon book. As long as the Pokémon book is with him, Liu can locate his position. Ding, your location is Changpan Forest. Coordinates, midpoint, 646,461. It is 312 kilometers away from the destination Changpan City, and the fastest route is. Liu just thought about going to Changpan City, and the system immediately set the best route, and told Liu their current location. Newcomer and new book, the author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment please. Chapter 112, The Hunter appears. Not only that, as Liu continued to move forward, the system would also remind him of the next route at any time. It can be said that it was a one-stop service, and it was a one-stop service. After quickly packing up the things and leaving the system world, Liu and Shilinfei each held an elf and quickly moved towards Changpan City under the instructions of the system. However, because they set out in the afternoon, they only walked more than 20 kilometers until the evening. It would take at least 2 or 3 days to leave Changpan City. Liu, let's go tomorrow. I'm so tired today. In the first half of the month, because Liu and his team were training while walking, Shilinfei didn't feel tired, but today she was only busy on the road and suddenly felt tired. Yeah. Wiping the sweat from his head, Liu responded, took out the camping equipment from the system world, and began to prepare dinner. In just half an hour, a hearty dinner was ready. Because Charmander and his team were training, they solved it directly in the system world. So the dinner was only enough for 2 people and 2 elves, and it didn't waste much time to make dinner. After dinner, Liu and Shilinfei immediately lay on the grass, looking at the twinkling stars in the sky and listening to the occasional voices of the elves in the silent forest. Liu felt inexplicably calm and relaxed. Liu wanted to stay quiet forever, but reality is cruel after all. Not to mention forever, there is not even a moment of peace. The quiet atmosphere was broken by a strong explosion. Liu and Shilinfei heard the sudden explosion and quickly stood up to look at the place where the sound came from. Then they saw a raging fire not far away in the north, and white smoke rushed straight into the sky. The elves around the fire were in chaos, running around everywhere. Liu and the others could hear the elves' roars and screams clearly from a distance. Liu, what should we do? Should we go and take a look? Although she wanted to help the elves, Shilinfei was worried about being in danger, so she could only ask Liu and leave the decision to him. Well, go. If it doesn't work, we can ask Mutuo to help. Liu thought about it and immediately decided to go and see what happened. After all, such a big fire must be man-made. If it continues to burn, those weaker Pokémon will definitely be killed and injured. Although Liu is not a saint, he will help if he can. This is his code of conduct, and it is also his passion for Pokémon that prompts him to do so. Well, the two reached a consensus and took Zorok and Eevee back to the system world without any hesitation, and then quickly rushed to the place where the fire was burning. Because Zorok and Eevee are not strong enough, staying outside will only drag Liu and the others. This is an indisputable fact, so Liu has nothing to worry about and directly sent them back to the system world. Although it looks not far, Liu and Shilinfei wasted 5 minutes to reach the place where the fire was burning. With Liu's current strength, the 5-minute journey is really not far. What? Damn poachers. Finally arrived at the place, but the scene they saw made Liu and Shilinfei extremely angry, because the fire was actually a huge circle of fire deliberately lit by poachers in order to hunt elves. And those elves that can't fly can only be forced to the center step by the fire. That is, the location of the poacher. This method is not to be said to be insidious, cruel, and selfish, because as long as they light a fire, the elves will be forced to their side and let them hunt. Not to mention how much forest will be burned by the fire. There are countless elves who have been burned to death by the fire. But for the sake of their own interests, those poachers are simply desperate. In their hearts, only interests are the most important. As long as they can get enough interests, any means can be used. It is precisely because of the existence of these greedy poachers that many of the divine beasts that originally protected the peace between humans and elves, uncharacteristically hostile to humans, no matter whether they are good or bad, as long as they break into their territory, they will be crushed into slag. Liu. Looking at Liu, Shilinfa's eyes were obviously worried. She wanted to rescue those elves quickly, but the fire had been burning for too long, so the scope of the fire was not something they could handle. There's nothing we can do about this situation. It seems we can only rely on Mutuo. Nodding, Liu called out Mutuo and Celebi from the system world. Without waiting for Liu to say anything, Mutuo and Celebi, who came out of the system world, instantly understood everything that was happening around them. Without any hesitation, the powerful strength burst out instantly, and Mutuo and Celebi disappeared. Then, a heavy rain suddenly fell from the sky. This was Mutuo using his ability to control attributes, changing the power attribute to water, and condensing the surrounding water energy to attack. Celebi also launched the attack instantly, because he was a natural controller, so he was born to control plants. I saw those towering trees suddenly mutated, and their branches kept waving to put out the burning fire. Roar. Me. Chirp. Seeing Celebi, the elves seemed to see a patron saint, and they cheered happily. Ha ha ha. My luck is so good. I didn't expect to meet two legendary beasts, Celebi and Mutuo, at the same time in one day. Just as Mutuo and Celebi put out the fire and Liu and Shilinfei rescued the injured Pokémon, a burst of wild laughter suddenly reached everyone's ears. Following closely were three people wearing uniform clothes and holding strange weapons in their hands. Judging from their tone, they were obviously the initiators of the fire, that is, the people who wanted to poach Pokémon. Among the three people, the leader was a big man wearing a grey-white windbreaker, with a shield and sword badge on his chest, and three eye-catching words "Hunter" on it. Although this big man looked young, he had a head full of white hair. I don't know if it was born or intentional, but in short, he gave people a feeling of being good at shrewd calculations. After the system's identification, Liu knew that his name was Jeets, the leader of a force called Hunter, and his strength was at the king level. Although there were only a few poachers, each of them was as strong as a king. Standing on the left of Gus is a masked man in a blue suit, with golden hair flying up into the sky, just like a Super Saiyan. He also has a Hunter badge on his chest. To be continued. A new author and a new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment. Please do anything. Chapter 113. Shocking changes Shilinfa's crisis. Roar. What? Boom. Buzz. Struggling hard, Boscadora and the others tried to break free from the traction of the space-time cracks, and their powerful attacks bombarded the surrounding space-time cracks. But these space-time cracks seemed to be connected to each other. The attack that passed through the space-time crack actually came out from another space-time crack and directly attacked their companions. Boom 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 boom. Because of the difference in their positions, the 9 Pokémon were attacked to varying degrees, but fortunately the aftermath of the attack shattered the space-time cracks, so there was no need to worry about being pulled into them. Attack. Gus and the others once again commanded their Pokémon to fight with Mutuo and Celebi. But after all, they were not as strong as others. Celebi was a guardian beast, born with the power of rules, and Mutuo was about to break through to the existence of a mythical beast. Not long after, Boscadora and the others could not withstand Mutuo's fierce attack, and with Celebi's constant harassment on the side, the battle situation instantly fell into crisis. Gas, you bastard, didn't you say that Mutuo's strength has greatly decreased because of the previous battle? Why is it so strong? How can we fight it? The angry Celt didn't care that the other party was his leader, and he started to curse directly. His dissatisfaction was overflowing. Damn it, how should I know? Those people gave me the information that Mutuo's strength has greatly decreased, so I thought I could capture Mutuo, who knew it was false. A cold color flashed in Gus's eyes, and he was also very angry. He cursed those people in his heart, but he also refuted them mercilessly. Okay, both of you, stop talking. I have already controlled the spaceship to come here, and we will leave directly later. Otherwise we will all have to explain here. Marilyn angrily scolded the two, and then operated the instrument in her hand. Humph. Gus snorted coldly, and was extremely dissatisfied, because Kelt had long been thinking of rebellion, wanting to overthrow his dominant position, and join the Galaxy team. But because Marilyn was very grateful for Gus's upbringing, she had never agreed to Celtic's request, even though they were lovers. Thinking of this, Gus seemed to understand why the gang would sell so much secret information to him at a discount. It turned out that they had planned to annex his Hunter Team Galaxy. You wait. With anger surging in his heart, Gus remained calm on the surface, secretly thinking about how to retaliate against Team Galaxy and maintain his dominance. Boom. 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 In order to escape safely, Gus and his men did not care about the lives of the elves at all, and directly rushed them to fight with Muto Celebi. They even released 2 more elves, Crowhead and Dream Demon, attacking Liu and Shilinfei respectively, obviously wanting to save Zao from Wei, and also to retaliate against Liu for ruining their good deeds. Run. Seeing the attributes of these 2 elves, Liu's pupils shrank sharply, because these 2 elves were both gold level 48 existences. Liu himself could still summon Zaocean to fight, but Shilinfei had no resistance at all. Just now, when Muto and Celebi were fighting against Gus and others, Liu and Shilinfei ran to rescue the injured elves, because they could not help much. Therefore, the two did not act together, but separately. This also led to Liu's inability to rescue Shilinfei in time. He could only loudly remind Shilinfei to run away quickly, while summoning Zaocean to fight the dream monster that pounced on him. Liu himself ran towards Shilinfei at the fastest speed, wanting to reach Shilinfei as soon as possible and hide in the system world with her. But things did not go as planned. Although the distance of 100 meters was very close, Liu's speed was not as fast as the flying speed of Crowhead. When Shilinfei saw the danger approaching, she quickly used her body skills, and the spiritual energy condensed under her feet, and her figure quickly floated in the opposite direction. Because Shilinfei's strength was 1 level lower than that of Crow Leader, the distance between the man and the elf was constantly shortened. Liu could only glare at Crow Leader, who was approaching Shilinfei little by little. Divine Bird special attack. In the end, Crow Leader still caught up with Shilinfei, bursting out with all his strength to launch a fierce attack, instantly covering Shilinfei, vowing to kill her. Fei Fei. Seeing that Shilinfei was about to die, Liu's eyes were bloodshot, and he wished he could take the attack on Shilinfei's behalf, but reality is reality after all. Shilinfei felt death approaching, and in front of her was the gate to hell. But, subconsciously, all the divine fox power in Shilinfei's body burst out, covering her body to form a divine fox phantom, protecting Shilinfei. But, wow. As Shilinfei's divine fox power burst out, an inexplicable force suddenly appeared in the sky, resonating with Shilinfei's divine fox power. Then, the originally peaceful environment suddenly turned into a world of ice and snow. The hailstorm that came from nowhere instantly lowered the temperature to below zero. Within hundreds of kilometers around, the originally warm environment was suddenly covered by ice and snow, turning into a sea of ice and snow. Even the towering trees were directly frozen into popsicles, just like the Guanghan Palace in the Chinese legend. Fortunately, this place is located in the forest, far away from the gathering place of humans, otherwise it is unknown how much disaster it would cause. However, this sudden mysterious change seems to have a trace of human form, because this extremely cold power has no attack on humans and elves. What? It turned out to be. Seeing this scene, everyone present, except Liu, was shocked, as if they had discovered something. Let's go. Just as everyone was surprised, Jeese and others took the opportunity to jump onto the spaceship, and their figures quickly disappeared into the night, and the elves followed closely behind. Humph. With an angry snort, Muto did not chase Jeese and others, but came to Liu, while Celebi went to rescue the injured elves. But, just when Muto had just reached Liu, the field changed again. The space where Shilinfei was standing suddenly twisted violently, and then a space crack suddenly appeared, swallowing Shilinfei directly into it, and the space crack disappeared immediately afterwards. What? Fifi. Liu ran to the place where Shilin Fei disappeared like crazy, but he had no way to find Shilin Fei, so he could only kneel on the ground helplessly with tears on his face. Liu, you don't have to be so sad. In fact, she is not in any danger. It's just an opportunity. At this time, Muto walked to Liu's side, and the faint words came into his ears. Are you serious? Is Fifi really okay? What's going on? Liu stood up suddenly, grabbed Muto's shoulders with both hands, and asked with hope. New author and new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment please. Chapter 114 Sakaki Family Prince Sakaki. Well, you have to believe me. You just need to wait quietly. I think she will be back in 3 days at most. And at the end, Muto suddenly stopped talking and did not continue. And what? Hearing Muto say that Shilin Fei will be back soon, Liu felt relieved. As for whether he was worried that Muto was lying to him, he would know in 3 days, and he had no other choice now. She went to receive the inheritance of the Ice God. The status and reputation of the Ice God on the mainland is not as good as your Divine Beast envoy, but it is not much worse. After saying this with emotion, Muto teleported away to rescue the injured elves. What? Actually, Fifi, I hope you can come back safely. As for the inheritance, I would rather not have it. Liu didn't care about inheritance at all, because nothing was as important as Shilin Fei in his heart. But since it has already happened, Liu can do nothing but walk around anxiously, waiting for Shilin Fei to come back soon. Dividing line. On the other side, Gus and others who had just escaped from the life crisis were actually caught up in an internal conflict. Gus, it's all your fault. You almost killed us all. I think you are not suitable to be the leader at all. It's time to change this position. Sitting in the spaceship, Kelt pointed at Gus angrily and said mercilessly, Kelt, how can you say that about my father? If it weren't for him, you don't know where you are now. If my father didn't take a fancy to you, would you have a current strength and status? Before Gus could say anything, Marilyn, who walked out of the cockpit, said angrily, Lin, you are still speaking for him. If it weren't for him, we would all have died there today. Can't you see that he just treats us as his subordinates, his tools? Seeing that his lover did not stand by him, but instead helped Gus, Kelt was very upset and said directly what he had wanted to say for a long time, but had been holding back. Hey, Kelt, you finally told the truth now. Have you wanted to leave us for a long time? What benefits did the Galaxy team give you that you just want to join them? Tears could not help but fall, and Marilyn shouted with all her strength in pain. Lin, Kelt wanted to say something, but in the end he did not give any reason, but just sat there in silence. K, if you want to leave, I won't stop you. I just hope you won't bother Lin anymore. I don't want Lin to be involved because of you. You know the style of the Galaxy team. How could they give you a free lunch? If you say there is no conspiracy, you probably won't believe it yourself. Gus looked at Kelt coldly, and his words were also cold and indifferent, without the previous affection. Humph. You don't have to worry about my business. Anyway, I must leave. Lin, I beg you to leave with me. I will definitely take good care of you. As if he had made up his mind, Kelt came to Marilyn, grabbed her hands tightly, and said excitedly, Haha. Kelt, are you still obsessed with it? Go away. I won't leave with you. Just pretend we never knew each other. After saying this, Marilyn almost used up all her strength. Then she shook off Kelt's hands and ran into the cab with tears in her eyes. Lin. Hearing Marilyn actually calling his name instead of K, Kelt wanted to do anything else. But before Kelt could reach the door of the cockpit, Gus stopped him and said coldly, Stop, if you leave now, I won't attack you for the time being, otherwise. Gus, I will come back one day, and I will take Lin away, when the time comes. Just wait. He called out Gus's name word by word, with a strong murderous tone, but in the end he gave up the idea of taking action directly. Lin, I will definitely come back, wait for me. Kelt said this loudly to Marilyn in the cockpit, and without any pause, he broke through the spaceship and disappeared. Woo woo woo. Marilyn in the cockpit heard Kelt's words, and wanted to rush out to keep him. But in the end, she just squatted on the ground in pain. tears streaming down her face. Gus looked at the cockpit, sighed, and said nothing. Turning around, he quietly looked at the dark night sky, not knowing what he was thinking. His sight turned back to Liu, because the weather suddenly became extremely cold. Even with the Zuan level strength, Liu could not withstand this severe cold. Moreover, Liu did not bring any winter clothes, so he could only stand shivering in the ice and snow. Because he was worried, Liu had no intention of leaving. With the help of Celebi and Mutuo, the injured elves were basically stabilized. As for those seriously injured and dying elves, they also temporarily saved their lives with their efforts. The Alliance also quickly discovered the abnormality here and quickly contacted the local power in Viridian City, the Sakaki family. The Sakaki family also quickly sent family forces to rescue the Sakaki family, because they did not send any champions to become members of the Alliance, only formally obeyed the orders of the Alliance. But after all, the Alliance is the strongest force on the continent. Even if it is not united internally, basic obedience is necessary, which is also for the consideration of the family. After all, the Alliance will not allow an uncontrolled and very powerful family to occupy one side openly. For any unstable factors, the Alliance is determined to eliminate them. There are many forces like the Sakaki family on the continent today, just like the Oak family. Because of some previous reasons, they have no good feelings towards the Alliance. Without further ado, let's turn back to Liu. Thank you, Mr. Wang. If it weren't for the clothes you sent, I would have frozen to death. After finally putting on the thick clothes, Liu felt the existence of his body again, so he became more friendly to the middle-aged man in front of him. Haha, Liu, you are so polite, and I dare not afford it. You are now the representative of the Cheok clan, and your status is much higher than mine. Sakaki Wang Hao smiled slightly, and hurriedly declined, saying politely, Liu was speechless. If the status of the guard leader who protects the entire family is still low, then what do you want? Otherwise, I will give you the position of the head of the family. But this is just Liu's complaint in his heart. This is a new book by a newcomer. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for anything. Chapter 115 Group Training, Part 1. Well, I'm leaving first, Liu. After the matter here is over, you must come to our Viridian City. I believe the head of the family will be very happy to see you. Because the seriously injured elves had to be sent to the city for further treatment. So after inviting Liu to visit the family, Prince Sakaki got on the spaceship and left. No wonder the head of the family said he wanted to befriend Liu. Looking at this posture, this is going to be a rhythm against the sky. Before leaving, Prince Sakaki looked at Mutuo not far behind Liu and Celebi sleeping on Liu's head, and couldn't help muttering in his heart. Because he had never seen a scene where a mythical beast would take the initiative to follow a human. Although Mutuo is not a mythical beast, its reputation is not much worse than that of a mythical beast, and it is even better. Liu didn't know what Prince Sakaki was thinking. He didn't have time to think about other people's opinions now. Because the waiting time was really tormenting, Liu simply came to the system world, wanting to temporarily put aside the tormenting emotions through training. Coming to the system world, Charmander and the others were training hard. Seeing how hard they were working, Liu finally relaxed a little. Raw. Seeing Liu, Charmander awed and ran to Liu. His intimate look touched Liu inexplicably. Charmander, how is your training going? Don't just focus on training, remember to rest. Because Charmander had been undergoing hellish training recently and rarely rested, Liu was very worried about his condition. Raw. Very good, but I just can't evolve. Charmander responded to Liu with full energy, but when he thought about not being able to evolve, he immediately became discouraged and extremely depressed. It's okay, I believe that, as long as you train more, you will definitely be able to evolve. I will train with you today. After comforting Charmander, Liu gathered the elves together. Of course, Xiaoshan and Xiaobei were excluded. They only needed to practice quietly to comprehend the origin. Today I will arrange training tasks for you, and I will also train with you. I hope everyone can work hard together. Charmander, since you can't find the feeling of evolution, don't force it. Today you will do high intensity training with me to enhance your physical fitness and endurance. Since Charmander can't evolve, it's better to increase physical fitness and lay a more solid foundation for future evolution. And Scyther, today I will also train you on attacking skills, and these rocks are our targets. I will teach you some moves so that you can use your power competently. Thinking of the martial arts secrets on Earth, although there are not many that are really useful, Liu has the immortal Eli who is known for 5,000 years. Is he still afraid that there are no real martial arts secrets? Magikarp, you need to practice your stress resistance in the water to improve your physique, because if you want to evolve into Gyarados, you can't evolve unless your physique reaches a very strong level. The evolution of Magikarp into Gyarados is a qualitative leap, but this is more demanding for Magikarp. Otherwise, how can a carp turn into a dragon? Butterfree, your training is to improve agility. I will train with you. At that time, I will greatly increase the attack speed of the tree man. You must be prepared to endure hardships. Even if Butterfree is training, it is difficult for his defense and endurance to improve greatly. Instead of wasting time on useless things, it is better to play to his strengths and avoid weaknesses and give full play to his speed advantage. Cassie, the most important thing for you now is to improve your mental strength because you are about to evolve, so you just need to rest well now. Cass's talent is very abnormal. As long as he keeps sleeping, he can improve his mental strength until he reaches the standard of evolution, and then he can evolve into Bravegera. Water Otter, because you are good at both long-range attacks and close-range combat, your training will be more difficult, more than twice as hard as this. First of all, for long-range attacks, you need to practice turning your water gun into a water cannon, that is, to condense more water power at one time to attack your opponent. Then there are fighting skills. It just so happens that you can also train with Scythe. I will choose the right martial arts secrets for you and let you learn the moves and techniques in them, regardless of whether they can understand what martial arts secrets are. Liu did not explain. Anyway, as long as they can learn, it will be fine. Otherwise, do you have to tell them about the history of martial arts development? Iron Dumbbell, you only have the collision skill now, so if I can exchange it for you, learn the skill card of controlling gravity and controlling sound. You should try to learn it, and add more trump cards to yourself. Iron Dumbbell is the elf that Liu is most troubled by. He has no other abilities, just a collision. Although he has the talent of controlling gravity and sound, it is unknown whether he can learn it quickly. Zoroa, you also need to improve your physique now, so come train with us and learn fighting skills. Well, that's it for now. Because Zoroa's strength is still relatively low, many abilities cannot be learned at all, and for the time being he can only do physical training with Liu and the others. Okay, that's it. Everyone go to your own training first. I will take turns to accompany you. After that, Liu, Charmander, Scyther, and Zoroa began to propose the first training project, running. Although running may seem simple, it can practice their control of rhythm and achieve the greatest training effect with the least effort. First, it's a 10-kilometer running training. The time cannot exceed 30 minutes. Start now. At the beginning of the training, Liu took the lead and ran to the distance, and Charmander and the others hurriedly followed Liu's pace. For training, Liu specially built a super runway. As long as you run a lap, you will have a distance of 1 kilometer, so Liu and the others only need to run 10 laps. Huff, huff. At the beginning, all the elves, including Liu, were full of energy, but after running 8 laps, their physical strength and endurance were greatly consumed, and they were very tired when they ran again. Come on, there are only 2 laps left, and you can rest after you finish running. Looking at the time, there were still 6 minutes left. Liu hurriedly encouraged loudly. Although they were very tired and wanted to stop and rest, seeing that Liu had trained with them and persisted for so long, how could they give up? Huff, huff, huff. Finally, although his throat felt like it was on fire and he felt suffocated, Liu still persisted. After running 10 kilometers, Liu only had the feeling of lying on the ground and never getting up. A new book by a newcomer. The author does not have much experience, and I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for anything. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Group Training, Part 2. Don't stop, keep walking, or you will faint. Seeing that Charmander and the others also wanted to lie on the ground directly, but Liu couldn't let them do that, otherwise they might accidentally die. Although they wanted to rest, they knew that Liu would not harm them, so none of Charmander and the others stopped, and continued to walk, and rest with Liu. Okay, everyone can rest. After saying this, Liu sat down on the grass, and Charmander and the others did the same without hesitation. After preparing fruits to restore water for them, Liu began to ask Xian and I for martial arts secrets suitable for Charmander and the others. After Xian and I's screening, Liu got a lot of practical moves, and they were also very simple. After all, Charmander and the others are now limited in strength, and they cannot learn moves that require too much. 10 minutes later, following Liu's instructions, all the elves stood up again, and the move training began, and Water Otter also joined in the learning. After all, he also needs to learn. Everyone, watch out, you can use your claws to attack the enemy. Carefully, Liu taught the martial arts moves he had obtained to Charmander and the others, and also practiced them personally, striving to make them learn them. Roar. Soon, Charmander and the others reached the level of a glimpse of the skills. After all, these moves were not very difficult, and they were all simple and practical ones carefully selected by Liu. Kai. The sharp claws penetrated the boulder, leaving 3 deep finger holes, and then the stone cracked and broke into small pieces. Scyther and Water Otter also used their sharp blades to directly cut the boulder into neat pieces like cutting tofu. As for Zorok, because his strength was not as good as Charmander, and he did not have Scyther's sharp blade, he only left a few finger holes on the stone. Very good, everyone, practice these moves first. I will go train with them first, and then I will come back to check your training results. Seeing that Charmander and the others have basically mastered these basic moves, Liu let them train first. He also wanted to train with other elves. After all, they should be treated equally. Let's go, Water Otter, let's go find Magikarp, and then I will teach you how to better gather strength. With Water Otter, Liu quickly came to the beach. At this time, Magikarp was insisting on staying under the waterfall, resisting the impact of the waterfall, and jumping up again and again. Look at me. Calling Magikarp over, Liu began to teach them how to gather more powerful attacks. As he spoke, water spirit gradually surged out of Liu's hand, and then continued to compress and condense, and finally formed a dark blue water ball. Look, you can compress the power limit, and you can also change it into other shapes. The water ball in Liu's hand slowly squirmed to form a water sword, and then turned into a water gun. Of course, this is just the most basic technique. Water Otter, you can also imitate the skill of Destruction Beam, gather your strength, and send out a jet of water. Magikarp, you can also try to learn Destruction Beam. Knowing that most water-type elves will learn a very powerful skill in the future, jetting water, Liu guided them to work hard in this direction and advance. Tap. Water Otter and Magikarp were deeply inspired, responded, and began to try continuously. At first, it was difficult for them to control their power and change it at will, but with Liu's guidance, Water Otter quickly mastered it, and the power of the water gun attack was greatly improved. As for Magikarp, due to the current strength limitation, the water power in his body is very small, and it is not enough to send out energy attacks, so Liu had to let him give up first, and continue to do strong pressure training to strengthen his physical fitness. Well, you train first, and I'll go see how Butterfree is training. Leaving again, Liu came to the place where Butterfree was training, still in the same forest, but Butterfree had already started training at this time. Maybe it was because Liu said that he wanted to increase the strength, so Butterfree controlled the tree man early and increased the speed of swinging the branches. Liu was very satisfied with Butterfree's desire for strength. It was because they were eager for strong strength that they would work harder to cooperate with Liu in training. Otherwise, how could there be any gains from training for 3 days and 2 days? Butterfree, very good. Seeing Butterfree's beautiful figure constantly moving freely under the obstruction of the tree man, Liu exclaimed. Bang, ah. Hearing Liu's words, Butterfree was extremely happy, but unfortunately, he was swept by the branches and hit the tree. Ah, Liu was speechless. I didn't expect that. I just said you were awesome. You immediately dropped the ball. Are you making trouble? Well, let's get started. This method of improving agility is very simple and practical. Let's see who gets hit less by the tree people. At the beginning of the training, Liu and Butterfree rushed into the forest, while the tree people kept waving branches to block their steps. Because the intensity of this training was at least several times higher than before, and Liu had never trained in this area, he was quickly hit by branches several times. And once attacked, it was easy to be hit by continuous attacks, so Liu's results were simply too bad. Speechless, Liu originally wanted to compete with Butterfree. But looking at this, let alone the competition, it would be a problem for Liu to walk out of the forest alive. Of course, this was just a joke, but with Liu's current state, if he didn't adjust himself quickly, it would not be so easy to walk out of the forest easily. After a lot of effort, Liu and the others finally left the hellish forest. Although Liu had always been miserable about this cruel training, he was still willing to improve his agility. Butterfree, you've done really well. Just keep training like this. I believe your strength will definitely improve greatly. Liu didn't expect Butterfree to be so strong. He was never attacked from beginning to end. This also shows that he has a good control over his body and can predict attacks very quickly and accurately. After leaving the forest, Liu came to the place where Iron Dumbbell was training. Because the level was only level 1, Iron Dumbbell was currently at its weakest, so the training couldn't be too harsh. Iron Dumbbell, you're too weak now, so I'll provide you with a lot of metal. You can slowly absorb it and increase your strength first. Then this is the skill card of metal, sound and gravity. You should try to comprehend it first. Don't worry. The most important thing for you now is to become stronger first. As for whether you can quickly learn new abilities, don't worry too much. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. To be continued. A new book by a newcomer. The author doesn't have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment please. Chapter 117 Mysterious Nine-Tailed Fox Special Ice Spirit. Iron Dumbbell doesn't need to pay too much attention to skill comprehension at present. He just needs to improve his strength level first, and it won't be too late to slowly put other things on the agenda later. So Liu specially exchanged 2 skill cards for him. As for whether he could learn it, Liu didn't make any strong demands on Iron Dumbbell. After encouraging him, Liu came to Ocean and Bay because they needed to comprehend the source of power. Although Liu couldn't help them, Xiani could. The knowledge reserves that Xiani has possessed for thousands of years are not what ordinary people can imagine. Not only are there secret manuals of skills and magical skills, but also historical records of the ancient fairy period and various inheritance information of mythical beasts. By learning from the comprehension experience of other mythical beasts, Ocean and Bay can find their own way more easily. So, Liu asked Xiani to transmit information to them, and he continued to train with the elves. Time passed slowly, and Liu had been training in the system world. And from time to time, Liu would come to the outside world to see if Linfei had finished the inheritance, but for 3 whole days, there was no movement. Helpless and anxious, Liu could only vent his anxiety and worries in the training process, training desperately, and the amount of training each time was far more than Charmander and the others. On this day, after training as usual, Liu came to the place where Linfei disappeared again. However, just like countless times before, there was still no movement, which made Liu anxious. Just when Liu was about to find Mewtwo to ask, the space suddenly twisted again, and then a familiar space-time crack appeared, and Linfei walked out of it. But at this time, Linfei was a fairy in the sky, and like a holy lotus. A light blue dress gave people a sense of exiled immortals, and her long black and shiny hair was draped behind her. Especially the cold temperament emanating from her body, as if she kept people away from her. But the slight smile, after seeing Liu, made people love her again. Fei, you are finally back. Rushing forward and hugging Shilin-Fui, Li Yu finally let go of the big stone in his heart. Only after losing can you know how to cherish. Only after experiencing the separation of life and death, Li Yu knew how important Shilin-Fui was in his heart. Well, I'm back. I'm sorry, Li Yu, I made you worry. Shilin-Fui buried her head in Li Yu's arms and said softly, as long as you come back, Fifi, where did you go? Do you know that at that moment, I thought I was going to lose you. Li Yu wanted to know what happened, because if it weren't for the sudden blizzard, Shilin-Fui would not have been rescued. And Li Yu was also very curious about the inheritance that Chao Meng talked about. Well, this is what happened. Just as Shilin-Fui was telling Li Yu about her experience, a fiery red figure suddenly appeared in a foggy forest far away on the mainland. This fiery red figure was wearing a wizard's costume, just like an ancient sacrifice. She was seen looking at the eastern sky from afar, as if she could see through the fog. After a long time, the figure suddenly muttered to herself, as if she was singing some mysterious ballad, but it was not the common language of the mainland at all. As if performing some kind of ritual, after the chanting, the figure suddenly spoke human words. Perhaps some people would say, what's so strange about speaking human words? But if you can see that this figure is actually a fox standing on 2 feet like a human, you will understand why it is so shocking. And behind this human-shaped fox, there are actually 9 tails, which is a Pokémon, 9-tailed fox. But for some reason, this 9-tailed fox is actually wearing sacrificial clothes and can speak human words. Before, the power of heaven and earth was in chaos, and the way of balance lost control. Now that the people from the outside world have come, the 2 gods have been born again at the same time, and the continent will not be at peace again. Yao Yao said a paragraph of inexplicable words, and the mysterious 9-tailed fox disappeared directly in the heavy fog, and when it appeared again, it was already in a small wooden house. In this foggy forest, there is actually a row of small wooden houses, and the people living here are not humans, but, Bingling, I have something to tell you. Looking at the carefree Vulpix playing in the wooden house, the mysterious 9-tailed fox sighed in his heart, but finally said, Bingling, from today on, you can leave the forest, and I will never stop you again. But, really? I can go out and play? Oh yeah, that's great. But before 9-tail could finish, Vulpix immediately cheered and jumped for joy when he heard the words of the high priest, and didn't hear the deeper meaning of 9-tail's words at all. This Vulpix also looks strange, not like the other Vulpix's fiery red, but ice blue. Hey. With a sigh, the 9-tail high priest took out a ring as transparent as ice crystal out of thin air, and then handed it to Vulpix and said, take this ring, you can find her, and it depends on your own luck in the future. High priest, what do you mean? Why don't I understand? Tilting his head, Vulpix looked silly, and looked at the 9-tail high priest blankly. Hey, I should have told you this a long time ago. It's your fault that you were born at the wrong time. The ice god appeared after you were born. Looking at the innocent 6-tailed ice spirit, the 9-tailed high priest felt sorry for her, but he couldn't violate his mission after all, so he finally explained to her. Do I have to protect the continent? But it doesn't seem to be difficult. High priest, don't worry, I will definitely find her and shoulder the responsibility of protecting the continent with her. The 6-tailed ice spirit tilted her head and said naively, as if in her cognition, protecting the continent was just like playing a game. Bingling, you must remember your identity. As a descendant of the ice god, I hope you can fulfill the duties and mission of the ice god. Okay, you set off. Remember, as long as you keep walking east, you can find her, and the ice god ring will guide you. With both hands and seals, a sacred power surged out, covering the ice crystal, and then a strange array pattern suddenly appeared under the feet of the ice spirit, followed by a fluctuation in the space, and the figure of the ice spirit disappeared directly. Bingling, I hope you will live up to the reputation of the ice god, and you must stay alive. After saying this intermittently, the high priest looked into the distance quietly. After a long silence, a tear slid down the corner of his eye involuntarily. I don't know why. We are about to enter Viridian City, and fierce battles will begin. Let's look forward to it. The protagonist's first gym battle. There are also various battles with trainers, interesting game challenges. Chapter 118, Ice God Envoy. Fei, I didn't expect you to have such a talent. And why is the inheritance you got so similar to mine? But it seems that you don't have a contracted beast. After listening to Shilin Fei's explanation, Liu finally knew where Shilin Fei had been and what she had done in the past 3 days. He also knew what the so-called Ice God Envoy was all about. It turned out that after Shilin Fei burst out the power of the Divine Fox that day, she resonated with the power inheritance left by the Ice God Envoy. In order to guide Shilin Fei to the place of inheritance, the strange phenomenon in the ice and snow occurred. And it was precisely because of this that Shilin Fei was able to escape death and get a chance to inherit the position of the so-called Ice God Envoy. From Shilin Fei's explanation, Liu knew that the Ice God Envoy was also a special identity and also had a unique meaning on the mainland. It is said that thousands of years ago, a six-tailed ice creature was accidentally born in the Nine-tailed clan, and this six-tailed creature showed his specialness when he was just born. Not only was he gifted, but he also grew very quickly. In just 10 years, he reached the realm of the sub-god Nine-tailed, but his achievements were limited to this. Although his talent was enough to allow him to break through to the position of divine beast, for some reason, he was stuck in this realm and could not make any progress. One day, a man who claimed to be the ice god came to the Nine-tailed clan, claiming that he was arranged by fate to find his partner. At the moment when this man who claimed to be the ice god met the ice Nine-tailed, the sky suddenly became extremely cold, and the temperature within a radius of 100 miles dropped by at least 10 degrees. And in this vision, the two crystal rings on the ice god automatically fell into the hands of man and an elf. Then the two rings burst into an ice blow light at the same time, and an inexplicable traction connected them. At this moment, the Nine-tailed finally broke through to the realm of Divine Beast, and instantly mastered the secret of super evolution. Once it entered the super evolution state, even the Guardian Beast had to retreat. From then on, the legend of the Ice God spread on the continent, and the Nine-tailed was also given the title of Ice God. Thousands of years later, just when everyone thought it was just a legend, Shilin Fei was lucky enough to obtain the inheritance of the Ice God. Regardless of whether the legend is true or not, judging from the strange phenomenon of heaven and earth that day, this Ice God Envoy is definitely not an ordinary inheritance, at least not much worse than Liu's Divine Beast Envoy. Fei, since your Ice God Envoy also has a contracted elf, where is she? Why can't I see it? Could it be? Suddenly thinking that, since Shilin Fei came out, she has not released the so-called contracted elf, which must be abnormal, so Liu asked thoughtfully. This? Actually, I don't know, because the inheritance of the Ice God Envoy has been interrupted for 1,000 years, so I don't know where the contracted elf is. It's just that the inheritance says that, as long as I wear this ring, I can sense her position within a certain range. But it's still a little vague. Taking out a crystal ring, Shilin Fei looked at Liu helplessly, pouting and dissatisfied. Haha, don't worry about these details. Since you have accepted the inheritance, you will find your contracted elf one day. And even if you can't find it, it doesn't matter. Don't I still have you to protect you? After comforting Shilin Fei, Liu suddenly said with love. After 3 days of separation, Liu went from worrying and anxious to helpless and painful, and finally became extremely anxious, wishing that Shilin Fei would come back immediately, but the reality severely disappointed Liu. Now that he finally felt Shilin Fei's breath again, with the beautiful woman in his arms, Liu's heart finally settled down, and he no longer had to worry about losing her again. Yeah. Hearing this, Shilin Fei shyly lay in Liu's arms, and for a moment, they were full of love and affection, and there was no need to mention it again. Dividing line. Everything returned to calm, and Liu and his friends began their adventurous travel life again, starting a week-long training in the Evergreen Forest. They decided to continue training for another week, and then go to Evergreen City to challenge the gym, and go to the trainer guild to improve the level of the trainer. Of course, this only includes Liu, and Shilin Fei only has 1 EV Pokémon, which is far from the 6 Pokémon required for the level assessment, not to mention the more difficult challenge gym battle. But Shilin Fei didn't care about these. All Shilin Fei wanted was to accompany Liu, and as for the others, she didn't care at all. While Liu and his team were training in the Evergreen Forest, the Alliance also issued a wanted order to arrest the members of hunters throughout the continent. This time the Alliance was really angry. In the past, the Alliance turned a blind eye to their small actions, but this time it was completely reckless. Although the fire was finally put out by the ice and snow, because of Shielinfa's inheritance. But it's time to show the iron-blooded side of the Alliance, otherwise those forces in the dark will be ready to move again. But this has nothing to do with Liu. There is only one thing related to him, that is, Celebi left after all. As a natural controller, Celebi must also fulfill her mission to protect nature, so she is destined not to follow Liu all the time, and leaving is only a matter of time. During this week, Liu has been accompanying Charmander and others for physical training and moves training. He will also accompany Magikarp and Water Otter to learn the use of energy. Liu will also accompany Butterfree for agility training, and at night he will practice quietly with Zyoshin and Zyobei, accompanying them to comprehend the source of power. Shielinfa also practiced with Eevee, gradually mastering the power of the newly acquired Ice God. Although the contracted elves of the Ice God's inheritance are not as good as Liu's beast, they also have advantages that the beast does not have. That is the inheritance of power. Before the death of each generation of Ice God, they will infuse their power into the Ice God ring and pass it on to the next Ice God. So now Shielinfa's strength can be said to be directly at the God level, but it needs to constantly assimilate the inherited power in order to achieve the state of control at will. So the most important thing for Shielinfa now is to speed up the improvement of strength so that she can control the inherited power faster. This huge advantage of Shielinfa is simply a bug. Liu was very envious and jealous in his heart. He wanted to improve his strength now, and the speed of practice was simply amazing. But Shielinfa only needed to sit there quietly and practice casually, and his strength could soar quickly. I don't know how many streets ahead of Liu, and there is no comparison between the two. Newcomer and new book, the author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment please. Chapter 119, Night Tour of Tokiwa. Shielinfa's elf Ibrahimovic also needs to control his own power. Because Ibrahimovic has two mutually exclusive attributes, Yin and Yang, he can't control his own power at all. Now the Yin and Yang attributes of Ibrahimovic are like dragons and tigers entrenched in his body. If he can't completely control and tame them, then he can't think of evolving and improving his strength. Even more seriously, he may suffer a backlash from his power, which will lead to a decrease in his talent and even the risk of death. Of course, the probability of this happening is still very low, but whether it is to enhance his strength or to save his life, Ibrahimovic must seize the time to control the power in his body. In order to solve this problem, Liu specifically asked Zyonanite for a skill called 9 Turns of Yin and Yang Ju. After learning this skill, you can control both Yin and Yang attributes at the same time. Although elves cannot learn human skills, it does not mean that they cannot learn from them. Through Zyonanite's careful explanation, although Ibrahimovic has not yet fully understood, he has some ideas. What he needs now is to slowly apply the ideas in his mind to himself, so as to control his own Yin and Yang power. But it's obviously not that easy to do, otherwise Eevee would have evolved long ago. A week passed quickly, and after such a long period of hellish training, the overall strength has improved greatly. Although the level has not increased much, there are some strengths that cannot be reflected by the level. After finishing the training, Liu and his group finally left the Evergreen Forest and came to Evergreen City. Coming to the gathering place of humans again, the city, Liu felt relieved. Humans are animals that yearn for group life. Liu is no exception. Finally seeing the lively scene of people coming and going again, Liu felt relieved. Fei, let's go have a meal first and relax for a day. What do you think? Walking on the busy streets, looking at the lively scenes around, Liu turned his head and looked at Shielinfa and asked, well, I've been studying breeding knowledge these days, and my brain is not working well. It's just right to take a break. Hearing Liu's plan, Shielinfa agreed immediately without any hesitation. Well, let's go. Holding Shielinfa's hand, Liu took her around the city. First, they got familiar with the environment of Changpan City and had a general understanding of the layout of the city. Then they came to the elf hospital. As mentioned before, this is not only a place for elves to be treated, but also a business, hotel and many other industries. After all, the elf hospital is an industry founded by the Alliance, and it is definitely not as simple as a hospital. And the most important thing is that the elf hospital is completely free. With so much manpower, material resources and financial resources invested every day, if the Alliance does not find a way to make some money back, the Alliance will not lose money, but will also bleed a lot. In order to make back the money, the Alliance can be said to have come up with all their thoughts. For example, in the elf recovery area, they specially opened an elf department store area to sell those elf potions, elf balls, skill cards and other items necessary for elves. The commercial area specializes in selling various female items, such as clothes, cosmetics, and accessories. Although the price is not particularly expensive, it can't stand the large number of women. Therefore, the proportion of money they earn from women is very high, almost catching up with the elf department store. In this regard, Liu was speechless, but just sighed in his heart. No matter where you are, women's money is always the easiest to make. Then there is the hotel, with the most sincere service attitude and a feast of good quality and low price. Almost most trainers will stay in the hotel of the Pokémon hospital, even if there are hotels opened by other families. However, no matter how good and cheap the hotel is, it can't afford so many Pokémons in Liu. In addition to Shilin for ZV, there are a total of 12 Pokémons that need Liu to prepare food for them. But Liu didn't have any stinginess and directly spent 200,000 gold coins and asked for a very luxurious meal. Although it was not the most expensive, it was also very expensive. All Pokémons are always the happiest when they are together, no matter what they are doing. Liu and Charmander had a very happy meal. After the meal, Charmander and the others returned to the system world to train on their own, while Liu and Shilinfei walked out of the hotel and went to the food street to visit the night market. At this time, it was very lively here, and many trainers of the same age as Liu were gathered in the square here. Some were eating delicious food, and some were sitting there quietly resting. The most lively ones were the trainers fighting in the center of the square. Every day, trainers would set up a ring here to challenge other trainers passing by. At this time, there were two trainers, a man and a woman, directing the Pokémons to fight fiercely. The male trainer was wearing a white sports suit and had short hair. His Pokémon was also a Charmander, and it was obvious that he was his initial Pokémon. The level of this Charmander was similar to Liu's. Both were level 15 and were stuck on the edge of evolution. The female trainer was wearing a white shirt with hot pants, and with her fiery red hair, she had a passionate personality. Her Pokémon was also a warlike Pokémon, a fighting type Balong. Balong was very cute, but he acted aggressively and full of fighting spirit, which made people laugh. When the battle started, Balong took the initiative and instantly approached Charmander, launching a concentrated attack skill. He quickly swung his fist as big as a sandbag and smashed it directly at Charmander. Roar. Hold on. Claws. Seeing that he couldn't avoid Balong's attack, Charmander simply didn't evade and used a hold skill to barely block the fierce continuous attack, and then used his claws to instantly counterattack. Bang. Continuous punches. Balong's fighting skills were obviously very powerful. Seeing that his attack missed, he threw another continuous punch and collided with Charmander's claws. Bang. The fists and claws collided, making a bang sound, and then the two elves took several steps back, looking at each other with a wary face. After a long time, it was the girl with a passionate personality who took the lead in ordering the elves to attack. Balong's figure flashed quickly, like falling stars, and he instantly bullied himself and launched another concentrated attack. Woohaha. Like a boxing master, the fierce attack surged towards Charmander, and Charmander was also unwilling to be outdone, using his claws to block continuously. Bang, bang, bang. The two elves kept colliding, fighting hand to hand, not caring about injuries at all. This is a new book by a new author, and I don't have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please do anything. Chapter 120 Eevee vs Pikachu. Although Charmander is also very good at close combat, it is ultimately no match for the fighting type Balong. After a long attack, Charmander's disadvantage gradually became apparent. It was obvious that his physical strength had been exhausted, while Balong still had some strength to spare. Give up. You can't beat me. Your Charmander has no physical strength left. If you continue to fight, it will only be a dying struggle. The girl's clear voice resounded in everyone's ears. Even though the audience was cheering, they still couldn't cover up her voice. HMPH. Impossible. Charmander, hold on. We will definitely win. The boy was obviously unwilling to admit defeat, but he was a little unsure when he looked at Charmander. Hey, I lose. Just when everyone, including Liu and Shilinfei, thought that the boy had no chance of winning, an accident finally happened to him. Perhaps this was the bond. Roar. Dragon's Fury. Just as Balon approached again, ready to end the battle with a fatal blow, Charmander roared and unexpectedly learned a very advanced skill in danger, Dragon's Fury. Boom boom. Balon looked at the dragon-shaped phantom release by Charmander in astonishment, and then was hit directly, flying backwards and falling heavily to the ground. Things that break out during battle are not very common, but it is obvious that I encountered it this time, but I will not admit defeat. I will definitely beat you next time. The unwilling girl looked at the boy unwillingly and said lightly, then took Balon back and left. Wow. The audience, who finally returned to normal, immediately burst into warm applause, which was both an encouragement to the boy and an excitement for being able to see this wonderful battle. The boy was obviously a little embarrassed and smiled foolishly, but when he saw the shaky Charmander, he quickly stepped forward to put it into the Pokeball and ran towards the Pokémon hospital. TSK. I didn't expect that his Charmander had such a deep relationship with him. He actually broke out his potential for him and learned Dragon's Fury before the battle. Looking at the boy's leaving figure with some sighs, Liu envied their relationship a little, because this was what he was pursuing. Well, you're amazing, but I don't think I'm bad either. Liu, I want to give it a try, can I? Shilinfei nodded in agreement, and then asked Liu eagerly. Are you sure you can do it? You haven't fought before. Looking at Shilinfei with some worry, Liu was worried that she would lose in the first battle, and asked uncertainly, well, don't worry. I've been training in the small world for so many days. Although I haven't fought officially, I have some experience after watching you fight so many times. I should be able to handle it. Shilinfei said excitedly, waving her fist confidently. Obviously, she had wanted to try the battle between elves for a long time. Well, then you have to be serious and careful not to lose, otherwise it will be bad to cry to me. In order to ease Shilinfei's mood and let her be in a more relaxed state, Liu said jokingly, Humph, you're the one crying. With a dissatisfied hum, Shilinfei took Eevee without hesitation and walked towards the field. Because this was just a friendly match, everyone only used one Pokémon to fight. This type of battle is like an after-dinner entertainment activity for people without any purpose. Hello everyone, I'm a trainer from Kingmu Town. This is my Pokémon Eevee. I wonder if anyone is willing to fight with me? Walking onto the field, no one had come out yet, so Shilinfei looked at the crowd and invited them to fight. When the crowd saw Shilinfei inviting them to fight, some of them were quiet and lively. Some wanted to play, but seeing Eevee's special form, some did not dare to go on stage. After all, if they were defeated by a girl, how embarrassing. However, there were still some who were willing to play. After a while, a trainer who was also a girl walked onto the stage, looked at Shilinfei and said, hello, I'm Shianmei, a trainer from Haxing Town. Please give me more advice. Shianmei took out a Pokeball, and then her Pokémon appeared in front of everyone, and it was also a mutant Pokémon Pikachu. This Pikachu was not the khaki color of ordinary Pikachu, but a glittering golden color, and it was obviously a mutant Pokémon at first glance. P.S. In the setting of this book, the mutant Pokémon is the shiny Pokémon. For this mutant Pikachu, even Liu, who has the system, can't tell which direction it is leaning towards. Because under the identification ability of the system, the characteristics of the Pokémon are not displayed at all. Although Liu is helpless, he doesn't know why the system can't identify the characteristics of the Pokémon. After all, whether it is in anime or games, Pokémon have characteristics. But since the system doesn't have it, he can't do anything. For something as illusory as characteristics, if you don't know it very well, you may not be able to recognize it, even if you see it. Characteristics are like hidden attributes, which are not so easy to see through. However, just seeing Pikachu's attributes, the system still shows it very powerfully. Name: Pikachu attributes: electricity qualification, diamond level, black iron level 17 ability, talent skill, lucky spell, a certain chance to trigger double attack. The rest are not enabled. Learning skills: electric shock plus lightning flash plus electric ball plus 100,000 volts. After reading Pikachu's attributes, Liu felt that they were basically normal. But the only skill that Liu frowned when he saw was the lucky spell. This skill can be said to be good or bad. It is completely based on luck and character. But it is often this kind of special skill that will play a huge role at a critical moment. Because, at the same level, if it causes double attacks, the opponent will definitely not be able to bear it, and it is possible to take advantage of the opportunity to turn defeat into victory. As for the others, Liu did not find anything unusual. Nor did he know from Pikachu's attributes what kind of mutant characteristics he has. After reading Pikachu's attributes, Liu felt that Shilinfui still had a great chance of winning, because Eevee's level was higher than Pikachu. Name: Eevee attributes: Psychic plus Dark qualifications, Epic level, Black Iron level 19 abilities, Talented skills, Hatred, make the opponent's skill just used invalid. Already enabled, Pray to nature to restore your own physical strength and injuries. Enabled at level 25, Assistance power, accumulate the opponent's power to attack you, and burst out, after reaching a certain level to counterattack. Unlocked at level 40, Magical Cloak, immune to any abnormal transformation, and has a certain chance of causing rebound. Unlocked at level 55, Learning skills, High Speed Star, the figure is as fast as a twinkling star, greatly increasing its own speed. Strange Light, concentrate mental power into substance, emit strange light, and cause illusion attack. Telekinesis, born with the ability to control telekinesis. Flying Sand Kick, throw sand to attack the opponent, and block the opponent's line of sight, thereby reducing the opponent's hit rate. New author, new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for anything. Chapter 121 Outbreak Lucky Spell. Liu also couldn't see anything unusual in Eevee's attributes. For example, Eevee has both the sun and moon forms, which is not reflected in his skills. But since there is no reason, let's just leave it like this. After all, he has no other choice, right? Now, just looking at the attributes and the skills, Eevee's chance of winning is greater than Pikachu's. Without further ado, the battle begins. Pikachu, 100,000 volts. At the beginning, Shianmui attacked with all her strength. The 100,000 volts skill is also a very powerful and classic skill in Pikachu's skill list. After all, so many anime are not watched in vain. The most classic skill of Zi's Pikachu is 100,000 volts, and he often makes funny faces. Pikachu. Pikachu's whole body was filled with electric light, and then countless golden lightning rushed towards Eevee. Eevee, Flying Sand Kick. High Speed Stars. Without hesitation, Shilinfui quickly asked Eevee to use Flying Sand Kicks to disrupt the line of sight, and then quickly accelerated to escape from the attack range. Eep. But the attack range of 100,000 volts is not ordinary, and even if the line of sight is blocked, Pikachu still controls 100,000 volts to attack Eevee based on prediction. Eevee screamed in pain, and lightning flashed around his body, almost falling into a paralyzed state. Because before the lightning attacked him, Eevee used telekinesis to protect himself. So the 100,000 volts only caused physical impact damage by bombarding the telekinesis shield, and as for the energy damage of the lightning, it was fortunately avoided. But even so, the bombardment speed of 100,000 volts is not to be underestimated. The violent impact directly knocked Eevee to the ground. Eep. Hate. Eevee, who was dizzy from the collision, stood up with difficulty and looked at Pikachu angrily. The hate skill was released. Although there was no change on the field, Pikachu temporarily lost the ability to use 100,000 volts. Pika? Feeling the abnormal changes in his body, Pikachu tilted his head and looked at Shianmui in confusion, as if asking the reason. Pikachu, it's okay, we use the lightning ball. Xianmei was also helpless about the ability to seal skills, but since it happened, they could only find a way to solve it. Pikachu jumped into the air with all his strength, and the lightning energy gathered all over his body, and then formed a lightning ball under his tail. Spinning 360 degrees in the air, Pikachu greatly increased the attack speed of the lightning ball through this method. Eevee, let's fight back, Strange Light. Similarly, Shilinfree also ordered Eevee to use Strange Light to fight back, otherwise it would definitely lose if it just passively took the beating. Eee. The invisible mental power continued to condense, and then formed a substantial Strange Light, which also shot towards Pikachu in the air with a clear purpose. Boom boom. The two attacks collided with each other, and suddenly a fierce explosion sounded in the square, scaring some spectators to step back a few steps, as if this would make them feel at ease. Sure. Bang. Pikachu's figure flew backwards and hit the ground hard after the explosion. Because Pikachu had nowhere to catch the ball in the air, and the lightning ball that had just condensed was detonated under him, he was directly affected by the aftermath of the explosion. The powerful aftermath of the explosion directly blew Pikachu away, and because he had no defense, this was definitely not a good thing. Even if Pikachu is immune to lightning attacks, the physical explosion damage is not something that Pikachu with weak defense can resist. Pikachu. With injuries all over his body, Pikachu still did not give up, struggling to stand up, and the fire of Pikachu's fighting spirit was still burning. Pikachu. Okay, Pikachu, let's fight it out. Electric shock. Although Xianmei wanted to admit defeat, after seeing the determination in Pikachu's eyes, she still didn't say this. Pikachu. The remaining electric light on Pikachu's body gathered instantly, and then formed a lightning beam, shooting straight at Eevee. After Pikachu launched this attack, the electric light on his body completely dimmed, and he lay weakly on the ground watching the final result. Eee. At the moment of the electric shock, Eevee tried to dodge, but the speed of lightning can reach the speed of sound. Although Pikachu does not have that strength now, Eevee does not have it either. So unfortunately, Eevee was hit by the electric shock directly, and this time he still had no defense and completely took the attack. Originally, with Eevee's current physical strength, it would not matter if he took this attack, and he would definitely win in the end. However, there are unexpected events in life, and people are subject to misfortunes at any time. Eevee was lucky to trigger the double attack effect of the lucky spell, and fell into a coma directly, losing his combat effectiveness. Eevee. Shilinfree hurriedly stepped forward, and looked at Eevee worriedly, fearing that something would happen to him. As for the victory or defeat, she really didn't care. Don't worry, Fifi, he's fine. Take him to the hospital now. Then he can rest for a while. Liu stepped forward, picked up Eevee, and said to Shilinfree, well, goodbye, Xianmei, we are leaving first. Worried about Eevee, Shilinfree and Xianmei apologized, and quickly followed Liu to the Pokémon hospital. Okay. At this time, the crowd reacted. After all, anyone who saw 2 defeats in one day would find it incredible, right? Pikachu. After watching Liu and the others leave, Xianmei saw that Pikachu was unconscious, so she ran to him, and chased after Liu and Shilinfree in the direction they left. In the Pokémon hospital. Xianmei, how long have you been adventuring? After handing the Pokéball to Miss Joy, Liu and Shilinfree had not sat down to rest, and Xianmei appeared in front of them. After handing the Pokéball to Miss Joy, Xianmei sat in front of Liu and Shilinfree without any strange feeling, and it was obvious that she was a very familiar person. Liu and Shilinfree did not reject such enthusiastic people at all, but also liked to make friends with such people. Well, it's been more than half a year. How about you? How long have you been out? And you seem to be a couple. Tell me how you met. Xianmei is like a little girl, very curious about everything, but sometimes she speaks without thinking, and even asks questions so fiercely. Actually, Shilinfree, who has always been generous and outgoing, is a little embarrassed about questions like feelings. After all, this kind of question is too sharp. Liu also laughed dryly, not knowing what to say. Time passed slowly like this. With Xianmei, this interesting little girl, Liu and Shilinfree also felt very happy. They didn't end the conversation until the Pokeballs of Eevee and Pikachu were returned by Miss Joy. After taking the Pokeballs and saying goodbye to Shy and me, Liu and Shilinfei went back to their rooms directly. After wasting so much time, it was already midnight, and it was time to rest. Newcomers and new books. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment please. Chapter 122, A Visitor from the Sakaki Family. The next day, Liu and Shilinfei had just gotten up when an unexpected person appeared in front of them. Hello, Mr. Lee, Miss Shi, I'm the guard of the Sakaki family. My name is Sakaki Ling. Commander, I invite you to the family for a chat tomorrow. That's right, this person who claimed to be sent by the Sakaki prince was waiting for Liu and the others to come out at the door of the room early in the morning, which made Liu a little embarrassed. Well, thank you for your trouble. Let's go. After letting the other person wait outside for so long, Liu was embarrassed to refuse his kindness and agreed directly. Moreover, Liu had his own purpose, that is, he wanted to know the specific information of the trainer guild in the Changpon gym in advance. After all, knowing yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles without danger. Since the other person took the initiative to deliver it to the door, although Liu did not think of getting the rock badge directly by relationship, it would not be considered cheating to know it in advance, right? In addition, there is also the challenge process of the trainer guild, which Liu is not very clear. In order to pass it more smoothly, he also needs to ask clearly, in advance and make full preparations. Following Sakaki Ling out of the hotel, they boarded the aircraft and flew directly to the residence of the Sakaki family. As for the fact that flying is prohibited in the city, isn't it? Haha, this rule is set by others. Okay. In just a few minutes, the three of them arrived at their destination. Apart from anything else, the area of the Sakaki family's residence alone is shocking. It occupies almost 1/10 of the entire city, all of which are private territory of the Sakaki family. Coupled with various high-rise buildings and high-tech equipment, those who don't know would think they have traveled to the future world. With a sigh, although he was envious and jealous in his heart, he could only think about it. To reach this realm and achieve this kind of achievement, even if Liu wants to have a very high status and a deep foundation now, it will take a long time to achieve this. Welcome to the Omi family. I'm so sorry, Liu. The head of the family is busy with affairs, so I can only receive you. Just after getting off the aircraft, the figure of Sakaki Wanghao appeared in front of Liu and said to Liu apologetically. This was not because the head of the Sakaki family was putting on airs. It was because for some reasons, he had to go and solve the problem in person, so the task of entertaining Liu was handed over to the Sakaki prince. Because the Sakaki prince had contact with Liu, it would not seem abrupt, and the Sakaki prince's status would not make it seem that he did not value Liu. It's okay, thank you Mr. Wang Hao, and thank the head of the family for his concern. When he comes back, please say hello to him for me. After exchanging pleasantries, Liu and Shilinfei followed the Sakaki prince to a dining table that had been prepared long ago. At this time, the table was full of food, and it looked very delicious. I invited you here so early because you finally passed through our Tokiwa city. The head of the family ordered me to entertain you well. While eating a delicious breakfast, the Sakaki prince said to Liu and Shilinfei, well, thank you for your hospitality. Such delicious food is not so easy to eat. I like it very much. Besides, I also have something to ask Mr. Wang Hao. With a slight smile, although he knew that the other party only befriended him because of his identity as a beast master, Liu still said politely, reality is like this. If you have no value, why should others value you? No one will waste time and energy on useless people, especially in the family. Oh, I don't know if there is anything I can help you with. Just tell me, I will do my best to cooperate. Such a good opportunity to do a favor. Sakaki Wanghao naturally would not give up and hurriedly asked, well, it's nothing. I just want to know the process of the level certification of the Trainers Guild and some information about the challenge requirements of your Tokiwa gym. Speaking of his purpose, Liu believed that Sakaki Wanghao would never refuse to help because it was really a small matter and there was no privacy at all. Even if Sakaki Wang Hao refused, Li Yu could get the information he wanted through other people and channels, which was just a little more troublesome. This is easy. I can tell you right now. But now it's more important to eat. I'll explain it to you in detail after dinner. Please, this is made by the best chef in our family. It's very good. You can try it. Although Sakaki Wang Hao was very disappointed with Li Yu's simple request. After all, this was not a favor at all. Well, very good. I like it very much. Sorry for the trouble. It took Li Yu and his family half an hour to finish a simple breakfast. After eating, Li Yu couldn't help but sigh at the corruption of family life. This kind of style is not something that ordinary people can understand. The challenge process of the Trainers Guild is very simple. First, you have to choose the level that needs to be certified, and then they will select the examiner to assess you based on your strength. This examiner may be an experienced senior trainer or a trainer who is not much higher than your level. As long as you can beat them, you can pass the assessment. Of course, don't worry even if you meet a senior trainer, the strength of the Pokémon they use will not exceed yours. That is, it is about the same as yours. As for those who are not much higher than your level, they can actually be examiners. That's because they are very experienced and are the best in large-scale competitions. They are invited by the league to join the Trainers Guild as examiners. In this way, for those trainers who are taking the assessment level, they will not be particularly nervous, and there will be a sense of closeness. After all, they are all young people. Sakaki Wang Hao paused when he said this, obviously letting Li Yu digest the information he said, and then seeing that the time was almost up, he continued, the level assessment of the Trainers Guild is about this. It is basically easy to pass in the early stage, and the league will not care much about those low-level trainers. After all, there are too many low-level trainers, and they are not very useful for the alliance, you know. But Mr. Lee is definitely not one of them. With your talent, it is possible for you to become the head of the sect in the future. As he said this, Sakaki Wang Hao may have felt that there was some ambiguity and some suspicion of indirect criticism, so he quickly changed the subject and praised Li Yu. Li Yu was speechless, but did not respond, just quietly listening to Sakaki Wang Hao's stand-up comedy. Then there is our Tokiwa Gym. In fact, with your strength, you don't have to go through so much trouble to challenge it in person. But I believe you definitely don't want to do this, so I will tell you in detail. Gym battles are also very human, no matter which gym it is, no matter how strong the gym owner is, even if he is a champion level powerhouse. As long as the challenger's level is very low, he must also take out the corresponding level of Pokémon to fight with the trainer, and he cannot exceed one level at most. Newcomer and new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend. Please comment please. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Tokiwa Game Base. How many Pokémon should be used in the battle? After sitting aside and thinking for a long time, Li Yu suddenly said this. PFFT. Hearing this, Linfei burst out laughing. Damn, you have been talking for so long, but you actually forgot the most important thing. Well, I forgot to say that the level assessment and gym battle also use 6 Pokémons. After all, some trainers are from families and have high level Pokémons given by their families. If they are allowed to pass like this, it would be a bit too frivolous, and it would not be fair to those civilian trainers. So since the problem was discovered, the Alliance has issued this rule. Sakaki Wang Hao's heart was like 1,000 Konoma galloping through, and he quickly said a lot of things to ease his embarrassment. Well, thank you Mr. Wang Hao for your words. With the information you provided, I'm also prepared for the upcoming battle. Thank you very much. Li Yu really felt that the repeated thanks were very helpful, so he did not hesitate to express his gratitude. Anyway, it doesn't cost money, why not say it? After following the Sakaki prince to browse around the Sakaki family, Li Yu once again kept sighing at the huge power of the family. Not only is the strength extremely strong, but even the economic strength is unparalleled. Originally, the Sakaki prince wanted to give Liu an elf, but was rejected by Liu. Because Liu found that he now has too many elves, and some can't take care of them. If there is another one, he will collapse. Just worrying about the training, life and other things of Charmander, Liu's head will be big. Time passed slowly, and after a circle in the Sakaki family, it was already noon. After lunch with the Sakaki prince again, Liu and Shilinfei said goodbye. After all, it took so long. Liu also had to go back and prepare for the battle that he was about to face. Lying on the soft big bed again, Liu felt really tired today, not only physically, but also mentally. Looking at the luxurious family residence of the Sakaki family, Liu was extremely envious and jealous, thinking about when he could establish the same family. After a nap, it was already around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Liu simply did not do anything else and took Shilinfei to stroll around Tokiwa City again. Tokiwa City is most famous for its underground game base, which is also one of the most profitable and famous industries of the Sakaki family. When they arrived at the underground game base, before Liu and Shilinfei could go in, among the neatly arranged waiters, one of them walked out directly to Liu, bent slightly and said with a smile, "Welcome to the game center. What game do you want to play? I think this is your first time here. Do you need a junior membership card?" This? I don't know much. Why don't you explain it to us? What's fun here? And what is a membership card? Confused, Liu didn't know what it was, so he could only ask proactively. Haha, sure. Sir, the games here are mainly divided into relaxation and entertainment, combat competition. Some require game coins, while others do not. After accumulating a certain amount of these game coins, you can also exchange for many items, such as elf potions, skill cards, and even elves. As long as you have enough game coins, you can exchange for many things you want. And now as long as you apply for a membership card, you can get 10,000 game coins for free. After explaining, the waiter looked at Liu, wanting to hear his answer. Then apply for one for me. As for the next game, let us play it by ourselves, so we don't need to bother you. I didn't expect that there would be a membership card system here, but it didn't matter to him, and it only cost 100,000 gold coins to apply for one, which was not expensive. What Liu was concerned about was that he couldn't let a waitress follow them all the time. After all, his girlfriend was by his side, and it would be bad if she misunderstood him. The membership card was quickly applied for. In fact, it was an ordinary gold card. The game coins earned by playing games could be stored in it, with no upper limit. After all, if it is real game coins, you can wait until there are more of them, before holding them in your hands. Whether you are tired or not is secondary. It will be seen as a fool. At this time, the game base is in full swing. A large number of trainers gather here. Some play games to relax themselves. Some train the abilities of elves through games and enjoy the fun in the game at the same time. There are many kinds of games here. Some are similar to those on Earth, such as ANOVA cards. There are battle cards, cards of size comparison, and everything. There are also games, various action games, music games, puzzle games, adventure games, and so on. There is nothing they can't do, except what you can't think of. However, after playing a round of these games, Liu and Shilinfei didn't want to continue, because they were tired of playing on Earth. After all, so many game websites are not for reading. Coming to the most popular battle game area, the games here are a bit interesting. There are two most popular games here, one is Wooden Man Lane and the other is Colorful Ball. Wooden Man Lane means that when the elves enter a game area, wooden dolls will appear there. This puppet will actively attack the elves. You need to dodge the attacks and defeat the puppets. Every time you defeat a wooden puppet, the elves can get 10 points, and being hit once will deduct 1 point. Points can be accumulated continuously, and finally the points can be exchanged for game coins. Once your elves last for 3 minutes, a new puppet will appear among the wooden puppets, the Iron Puppet. The Iron Puppet has 50 points, and being hit by his attack will also deduct 1 point. When the elves last for 5 minutes, the Bronze Puppet will appear, with a score of 100 points. Generally, elves can only last until this time, and they will not be able to last beyond this time. because the strength of these puppets is also constantly increasing. The wooden puppet is level 15, the iron puppet is level 25, and the bronze puppet is level 35. It is very good to be able to persist until this time, but there are exceptions. Some can continue to persist for 15 minutes, and at this time, the most powerful gold puppet appears. The strength of this gold puppet is as high as level 45, which can be said to be very strong. For ordinary trainers, their elves basically cannot persist until this time. And those higher level trainers disdain to play this game. So no one has ever seen the golden doll appear on the game field. Of course, it may have appeared, but ordinary people can't see it. The game of colorful balls also refers to the Pokémon entering the game field and then constantly dodging or smashing the colorful balls shot from any direction. The colorful balls will constantly change colors, and the Pokémon can use their own judgment to smash them in any color to get corresponding points. Smashing a white ball is 1 point, smashing a green ball is 3 points, smashing a blue ball is 5 points, smashing a purple ball is 10 points, and smashing a gold ball is 50 points. The speed at which the colorful balls change colors varies, some are fast and some are slow. In addition, there will be black balls that deduct points. Once hit by a black ball, or smashing a black ball, 10 points will be deducted. The longer the Pokémon persists, the faster the flying speed of the colorful balls will be, and the frequency of their appearance will be faster. In short, it will become more and more difficult. This is a new book by a newcomer. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please ask for all kinds of requests. Chapter 124 Charmander's Challenge. Fei, I want to participate in these two games. Do you want to join? For the two games of Colorful Ball and Wooden Man Lane, Liu felt that he could test the results of Charmander's training while playing the games. For example, the Wooden Man Lane game can test the results of Charmander, Scyther, Zoroark, and Water Otter's training. Because Liu's training for them is specifically focused on attack and agility, the Colorful Ball game can just let Butterfree practice his evasive skills. As for breaking the colorful balls to get points, Liu doesn't care at all. Because the things in the game base that are exchanged with game coins are not as good as the things he exchanged in the system. Since there are better ones, why bother to get those low level things? Although the game coins here can be exchanged for elves, Liu does not want to capture any elves at present. As mentioned earlier, Liu does not need elves now, because he has enough. So Liu wants to play these games for only one purpose, which is to let Charmander and others relax, train themselves in the process of the game, and find their own shortcomings. No, Eevee is not good at these two games. If you want to play, take Charmander and the others to play. I'll watch from the side. Fei thought about it, and felt that Eevee was not suitable for playing this kind of game, because Eevee was not good at attack and agility, so she didn't want to play. Well, then I'll go and sign up Charmander and the others, and then we'll watch their performance together. Wait for me, I'll be back soon. After saying something to Fei, Liu immediately came to the registration place, took out Charmander and the others' Pokeballs, and handed them to the relevant personnel, and then Liu swiped his membership card as a record, which was considered to be signing up for Charmander and the others. Liu signed up Charmander, Otter, and Zoroark for the game of Wooden Man Lane. Scyther and Butterfree were playing the game of Colorful Ball. After signing up, Liu took Fei to the game area. This game base also uses space development technology to divide many spaces as game areas. It can be said that each game has its own special place, and it is also very large, otherwise how can it accommodate so many people? From this, we can see that the Sakaki family is so powerful that they can even use the dimensional space in the business field. You know, some families can't even open up space, but the Sakaki family is so generous. Liu and his friends first came to the exclusive area of the game, the Wooden Man Lane. At this time, there were already many trainers who were looking forward to looking at their own or other people's elves, and wanted to see their achievements. If you want to watch the game, you can go to the scene to watch. There are special seats there. Of course, you can also watch it through virtual reality technology, using a virtual helmet. In fact, the effects of the two are basically the same, because the virtual reality technology here is completely a second world, and there is no difference from the outside world. It's just that Liu, as the owner of the elves, doesn't have to worry about this problem, because there is a special place for him in the challenge area. When they came to the exclusive position, Liu and Shilinfei sat there quietly, waiting for Charmander and the others to appear. After all, there are so many people in the game, it will definitely not be his turn immediately, and it is necessary to wait. However, because there are so many game venues here, even if there are too many people, it will be his turn soon, and basically those elves can't hold on for long. After all, their strength is limited. About 10 minutes later, Liu received a message saying that Charmander and his friends were about to appear. Hearing that Charmander and his friends were finally going to start the challenge, Liu was somewhat excited and somewhat worried. Liu expected Charmander and his friends to achieve good results, but was also worried that, if something unexpected happened, it would dampen their enthusiasm and make them lose their confidence. Mixed with nervousness and expectation, Liu saw the first elf to appear at noon, which was his initial elf, Charmander. Roar. With a loud roar, Charmander cheered himself up and then looked around in a state of alert because he didn't know where and when those puppets would appear, which was also a way to train and test the reaction of the elves. Sure. Suddenly, a wooden puppet suddenly appeared behind Charmander and then punched Charmander directly. Bang! Feeling the sharp fist wind behind him, Charmander also swung his claws and collided with the fist of the wooden puppet. Then the wooden puppet was seen to break and disappear in an instant like a bubble. This is not surprising. After all, although the wooden puppet's strength is level 15, if its defense is also level 15, then Charmander can only deal with 2 or 3 at most before its physical strength is exhausted. Moreover, the purpose of this game is not to test combat ability, but to test the agility and reaction of the elves. However, although the wooden puppet's defense is very low, its attack power and speed are actually level 15. If it is accidentally attacked, Charmander will definitely not be in good condition. Sure. This time, 2 wooden puppets appeared at the same time, and they rushed towards Charmander from 2 directions, obviously wanting to attack from both sides. Roar. Sparks. The burning sparks sprayed out of its mouth and hit the wooden puppet on the left of Charmander, burning it to ashes in an instant. Bang! Then Charmander's footsteps flashed, and he quickly rushed towards the wooden puppet on the right, waving his claws, and piercing through the chest of the wooden puppet. Sure. Bang! Bang! However, just when Charmander had just finished off 2 wooden puppets, another puppet suddenly appeared behind him. The puppet's attack directly hit Charmander's back, knocking him away instantly. Sure. Before Charmander could get up, 2 more wooden puppets appeared around him, and then a total of 3 puppets surrounded Charmander. Roar. Alloy claws. With a roar, Charmander waved his metal claws and pounced on a wooden puppet, tearing it in half with his sharp claws. Bang bang. Then Charmander turned around quickly and pounced on the other 2 wooden puppets. For a while, Charmander and the wooden puppets that kept appearing were having a great time fighting. Roar. Whoosh. Time passed slowly until 3 minutes passed. At this time, Charmander had killed 65 wooden puppets, which was 650 points, but because he was also attacked by wooden puppets 15 times, he had to deduct another 15 points. Moreover, at this point in time, not only the speed and frequency of the wooden puppets have greatly increased, but more importantly, a new puppet will appear, the iron puppet. The strength of the iron puppet is level 25, which is far beyond the level 15 wooden puppet, and his defense has also been enhanced, and he can no longer be broken by one blow. The most important thing is that after a long period of challenge, Charmander has consumed a lot of his physical strength. Looking at his heavy breathing, he is obviously exhausted. This is a new book by a new author. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment please. Chapter 125 Game over. Come on. Liu silently cheered for Charmander in his heart. He was very happy that Charmander could hold on until now, but he was worried that he would get hurt if he insisted on holding on. But in the end, Liu chose to remain silent. Since Charmander did not choose to stop the challenge, it meant that he still wanted to continue, so Liu could not stop him. Swish, swish, swish. This time, 5 wooden puppets appeared at the same time, and there was an iron puppet. The 6 puppets rushed up at the same time and quickly besieged Charmander. Moreover, the iron puppet was very insidious, because although his strength was higher than that of the wooden puppet, he did not rush to the front, but hid among the wooden puppets, trying to launch a sneak attack. Roar. Dragon's Wrath. With enough anger accumulated, Charmander no longer suppressed himself. The anger that burst out instantly formed a dragon's phantom, and flew towards the place where the iron puppet was hiding. Boom boom boom. Continuous explosions were heard, and smoke and dust suddenly rose up in the sky, blocking everyone's sight. Sure. Just when Charmander thought that the iron doll had been defeated and turned to attack other wooden dolls, a grey metal figure suddenly flashed out from the smoke and dust. It was the iron doll. It turned out that the iron doll, with its level 25 speed, directly avoided the attack of Dragon's Fury, but did not appear directly, but hid in the smoke and dust, ready to attack at any time. And at the moment when Charmander turned around, the iron doll rushed out directly, and the iron fist hit Charmander fiercely. Boom. Charmander was directly hit, and then his body slid on the ground for 6 or 7 meters before stopping. With a painful groan, Charmander wanted to get up, but his physical strength was completely exhausted, and coupled with the heavy blow from the iron doll just now, he was already on the verge of coma. At this time, all the dolls suddenly stopped moving, and then disappeared directly, and Charmander was also taken to treatment. This challenge was finally over. Trainer Liu and his Pokémon Charmander have completed the challenge of the Wooden Doll Alley. The duration was 3 minutes and 15 seconds. 68 wooden puppets were defeated, 16 hits were made, and the final score was 664 points. Then, the result of Charmander's challenge also appeared in Liu's Pokémon book. Although the 664 points can only be converted into game coins, they were earned by Charmander with great effort, so Liu was very satisfied. Soon, Liu's second Pokémon, Water Otter, appeared in the game venue. Compared with Charmander, Water Otter has faster reaction speed, but its endurance is not as strong as Charmander. So in general, Water Otter's strength is similar to Charmander, and each has its own strengths, so the final results should be similar. Sure enough, at the same time point of 3 minutes, the iron doll appeared again. Although Water Otter relied on his agility to barely kill an iron doll, he was hit by 2 wooden dolls in succession, and lost his combat effectiveness. The final score of Water Otter was 691 points, which was slightly higher than Charmander, but in fact, the combat power of the 2 elves was about the same. The last challenge was Zoroark. Looking at the petite Zoroark, most people would worry whether it could withstand the attack of the puppet that was more than 1 meter taller than it. But Liu was still very confident about Zoroark. Although Zoroark's combat awareness was not enough, his talent was there after all. It should be possible to get a score similar to that of Charmander and Water Otter. But the final result surprised Liu, because Zoroark actually deceived the sight of those puppets with his talent for transformation. After turning into a puppet, Zoroark quickly swam between the puppets, making it difficult for those to tell which one was him. In this way, Zoroark actually lasted for 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and scored as many as 810 points. It was 200 points higher than Charmander and Water Otter. Liu and Shilinfree watched the challenges of other trainers, and waited for about 10 minutes. Finally, Charmander and the other 3 finished their treatment, and returned to Liu. Charmander, Aquaman, Zoroark, you 3 performed very well. I'm very happy for you. Especially Zoroark, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Seeing Charmander and the others recovering their vitality, Liu's hanging heart finally let go, and encouraged them with a smile. Roar. Tap. Ah. The 3 Pokémons also responded enthusiastically. They were very happy to be recognized and praised by Liu. After taking Charmander and the others back to the system world, Liu came to the colorful ball game venue. At this time, it was Butterfree's turn, but Liu had not arrived, so he had to let others come first. When Liu arrived, there was a trainer challenging. His Pokémon was a bubble squirrel, with snow white hair all over his body, and a tail that could be used as a scarf, which was very cute. Although the bubble squirrel does not have the flying attribute, it can glide through the flesh membrane, which is also a kind of flying. Having the ability to fly is also very helpful for the challenge. In the game field, there are constantly changing colored balls flying out, and the speed is not much slower than the skill attacks of ordinary elves. However, the foam squirrel is like an acrobat, constantly flipping back and forth in the air and gliding, avoiding the attacks of one colorful ball after another, and occasionally using skills to smash them. Liu didn't know how many points he got to be considered powerful, but looking at the amazed expressions of those people and the gorgeous performance of the foam squirrel, the results must be very good. For a full 10 minutes, the foam squirrel persisted for a full 10 minutes, and stopped challenging, until his physical strength was exhausted. This is the case for low-level elves, not because they can't continue to challenge, but because of the limitation of physical strength. It was finally Liu's turn, and the first to appear was Scyther. As an elf with the same flying ability and stronger physical strength than the foam squirrel, Scyther finally got less points than the other party. Because although Scyther is very powerful, its physical agility is not as high as the foam squirrel. So after being attacked by colorful balls again and again, the speed at which its physical strength decreases is faster than that of the foam squirrel. In the end, Scyther's score was 942 points. Because this game is much simpler than Bakuto Lane, the results of the elves are generally better, and Butterfree did not disappoint Liu. With his long-term agility training, the results he obtained were even more gratifying. A full 1234 points. Even many elves with higher levels than Butterfree could not get this score, which shows that Butterfree's training for so long is still very effective. The game is over, and all the elves are sent back to the system world. Liu and Shilinfree are ready to leave the game base and go out for a midnight snack. But at this time, Saka Qiaohan unexpectedly appeared in front of the two again. Newcomer and new book. The author does not have much experience. I hope friends who like it can collect it. Please recommend, please comment, please do anything. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.